and what works for one team may not work for another. So the Travis Hunter conversation really now starts at 2, because what the hell is Cleveland going to do? Are they going to ride into this thing with Kenny Pickett? That's kind of crazy to me, but I suppose stranger things have happened. And then the national championship game tonight, an awesome Final Four weekend. We knew that these two games were going to deliver between Auburn and Florida and between Duke and Houston. I don't think anybody would have had the way that they actually ended up playing out if you had to predict how these games were going to go. Duke falling short in the final seconds of this game against Houston, because Houston just does not have any quit to them. And I know there were some people complaining about the officiating, specifically to what happened to Duke in that situation that caused Houston to be in a beneficial position, essentially, to kind of take that thing over after having not led the entire game. And I thought when Cooper Flagg made that three-pointer with to give them a 9-point lead with, I think, just over 3 minutes to play, I thought it was done. I think everybody thought it was done.
Yeah.
Duke probably thought it was done. And Houston, to their credit, they applied pressure at the most pivotal moments to be able to take that game out of the clutches of Duke's hands, and the best player in college basketball this season, and arguably one of the best Duke lineups we've ever seen by the metrics. Whether or not they have the same name brand equity or star power that you've associated with previous Duke lineups or not, by the numbers, this is one of the best Duke teams we've ever seen. And they will not play for a national championship. It felt like, to me, we were en route for the coronation of Cooper Flagg this season, because Florida looked a bit vulnerable prior to the Auburn game. And even in the Auburn game, they looked a bit vulnerable. The turnover stuff started up again. And the way that they were able to come back and just kind of stay the course against Auburn, who let things slip down the stretch, Florida looks like the team to beat, but I wouldn't want to play Houston.
Two awesome comebacks in this Final Four, especially on the side of Houston. Are you kidding me? What a 14-3 run to close out that game. LJ Cryer was fantastic, 26 points, 6 of 9 from 3. He is now the first player in men's college basketball history to play in 2 national championships for 2 different teams, as he was a freshman on that Baylor squad that beat Gonzaga in the national championship game a few years ago. So, yeah, 2 different play styles going head-to-head in this game, and 2 coaches from different eras going head-to-head in Todd Golden and Kelvin Sampson.
Todd Golden's 39, Kelvin Sampson's 69.
Right. Todd Golden looks like he is 29, but he is 39.
So it is an interesting stylistic matchup, but so was Duke and Houston. And you saw who got the better of that matchup, even though it felt, pretty comfortably the entire way through, until it very much wasn't. Duke felt like they had that game in hand. And what ended up being just an absolutely grueling defensive effort by Houston wore them down throughout the course of that 40 minutes. And it just it comes down to, in so many of these games, 3 things to me. Luck is a big part of it, but finish and hustle plays define the NCAA tournament. You could argue they define any major opportunity in sports. Just how much more willing are you to finish than the opponent across from you? How much more desperate are you for that win? I know football players talk about it specifically when you're coming into the NFL and it's your job to take food off somebody else's table to feed your own family. Like, this is the way the professional athletes view a lot of this stuff. And for Houston, man, I speak glowingly about Kelvin Sampson all the time. It's because I wish he was still my basketball coach, and what could have been, that sticks with me pretty often. But I'm so happy to see them in the national championship game. And I'm happy to see Florida there too. I would have been fine with, again, I said this on Friday, I would have been fine with any combination of 2 teams of the 4 that were remaining, because all 4 of them are great. All 4 of them have been great.
Yes, the 4 best teams in the country by a mile in the Final Four, and now the 2 best teams in the country battling out in the championship. We got at the end of that game a situation that you dream about in the Final Four, right? Duke down 1 with the ball, seconds on the clock. Cooper Flagg, the best player in the country. You know he's going to get an opportunity against Houston, the best defense in the country, with the national championship game spot on the line. Everything you could possibly dream of in that moment.
Except for the miss.
And most of the time, right, the player with the ball in his hands, the best player in the sport, on that particular year is usually, I feel like, the one to win that battle, but not in this case. That's how special this Houston team is defensively. The way that they locked Duke down in that last, 6-minute stretch in that ferocious comeback was incredible to watch. It felt impossible. Duke felt like it was cruising to the national championship game.
Well, you saw the scenes out of Cameron Indoor, right? Where Duke fans were watching from afar in silence. Well, except for the odd shriek of terror or tears and sobbing that you heard in the background, because Duke again, this Duke team almost made you comfortable rooting for Duke as an objective observer. I know Duke is one of the more polarizing programs in college basketball, but this Duke team is not unlikable. Coach K is gone. John Shire, I don't think, is unlikable. As I heard Jay Billis talking about this. I think it was Ryan Russillo's podcast, where Jay Billis said Cooper Flagg and John Shire have no idea how hard the rest of us work to make Duke an unlikable, hateable program, and they're just undoing it in real time. You're not going to assign any kind of Cinderella or underdog story to one of the most storied programs in men's college basketball, but I would have been okay with seeing Duke win. I know many people hate that program enough and hate players who have played for that program enough to think, no, they're just happy to see Duke tears. Bert, I know you're anti-North Carolina to the point of no return, but I don't know how people in that part of the country are reacting to. I don't want to call it a choke. It was just a great effort and finish by Houston at the end of that game.
ACC truther Robert Walsh was beside himself. We were watching the game together, the end of the game Saturday, at a Chili's in Shelbyville, and Robert was losing his mind at Duke's meltdown.
Only because it is the biggest robbery from a national championship team we've seen in such a long time. Not to have the greatest basketball conference involved in the national championship is a sham, a total sham, and the referee should have fixed it like they would if Carolina was in this game.
We'll see if Casey Alexander feels the same way. He's in San Antonio. He's been taking in all the action. He'll be there for the national championship game tonight. So we'll talk to the Belmont men's basketball coach about what he saw from the Final Four and what different kind of ways Houston will have to employ or deploy to try and keep this Florida offense under wraps. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
Hey guys, Luke is here to tell you about Music City's coolest new spot and your go-to spot. If you're looking for a place to watch the national championship game tonight between Houston and Florida, it is Fog Street Lawn Club. Perfect for all sports. It's also Nashville's premier soccer pub, the best place to go watch Nashville SC games, and it's open early for Premier League action, even for those 6 a.m. kickoffs. But no matter the sport, like tonight with March Madness coming to an end, Fog Street Lawn Club is going to make sure that you have a perfect viewing experience, and you'll never get bored. Check out the rooftop. It's the most picture-perfect view of downtown Nashville you can find. Play British-style lawn bowling with your friends or cornhole on the rooftop for free, or head next door. Challenge your buddies to some axe throwing at Bad Axe. Located near the Gulch in the upcoming Pie Town neighborhood, Fog Street Lawn Club will give you the experience of downtown Nashville with a perfect escape from all the hustle and bustle. It's family-friendly, great for all sports fans. You can even host special events at an awesome venue. Not to mention the awesome menu of British pub-style food and a large drink selection. Check out Happy Hour Monday through Thursday from 3 to 6 p.m. Check them out tonight for the national championship game at Fog Street Lawn Club, located on Fog Street.
Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Casey Alexander, Coach Casey Alexander, Belmont Men's Hoops, joins us now. He is performed dutifully as our tournament analyst, and he is on the scene in San Antonio. Casey, I guess we'll start with the obvious, the upset of Houston over Duke and the way that game played out. Fascinating to watch from afar. What was it like in the building?
Yeah, crazy finish. Two great teams. I think all of us thought with 2 minutes to go that Duke clearly had the game under control, and they did. But it's the reason why coaches go gray or bald really early in life is because you just sit there and agonize through every possession, and Houston found a way to win the game. It was pretty awesome to see the way that it turned out.
The thing about Kelvin Sampson, though, for me,
real
Coach.
Quick, Coach, I have an important follow-up. Is that why you did you go with the bald look early to get ahead of that?
Yeah, just cut your losses and move on.
Right. Smart move.
No, Casey Alexander, a smart man. Kelvin Sampson, though, Coach, about the way that he handled that situation, and obviously we're not privy to everything that's going down on the sidelines there, but I just thought he handled the situation and steadied his team so well throughout the course of that, understanding that they were up against it basically for the entire game, and it just came down to finish.
Yeah, you're right. Great poise by Coach and his team that followed suit. I mean, they clearly believe in who they are and have great confidence, in kind of their longevity and ability just to finish. But the reality is almost everything went right for them down the stretch. Everything didn't go wrong for Duke necessarily, but it was just amazing how it finished. Houston scores 15 points in the last 2 minutes of the game. They were 55 with 2 minutes to go, and they scored 15 in the last 2 minutes. They made every free throw. They go 8 for 8 from the free throw line. They only had one possession where they scored on offense, and that was a bad possession where they make a three, a bad shot that goes in. So things just kind of went their way. Duke misses a front end of a 1-and-1. You got Flag that misses the turnaround jumper with 10 seconds to go. But that's what happens sometimes. You see games finish that way throughout the season.
Coach Casey Alexander, Belmont men's basketball coach, here with us talking tournament. Final four under wraps. Now we've got a national championship game tonight.
Well, and Coach, Florida once again battles back to overcome Auburn in the second half. They were down 8 at halftime. It's kind of been rinse and repeat for this team throughout the course of this tournament, right? I mean, littered with turnovers game to game. They've overcome leads, second half deficits in a lot of these games. How have they overcome averaging almost 14 turnovers per contest in the NCAA tournament and doing it 16 times against Auburn and still winning the game?
Yeah, it's amazing. And the simple answer is Walter Clayton. I mean, maybe the best NCAA tournament performance when you look at all the games combined. Gosh, of anybody in history, maybe. I mean, it is unbelievable how he has kind of willed their team to wins time after time after time, just putting them on his back and making tough shots. Really remarkable for him. But the turnover scenario, on one hand, you look at it and say, hey, they can overcome it. We've seen it multiple times. On the other hand, Houston forces a lot of turnovers. It's one of their strengths, and so you have to wonder, if Florida continues down this path, is their luck going to run out as far as that's concerned?
Well, and that's really the only way to answer the Walter Clayton Jr. problem. It's the best defense in college basketball, and that's what Houston obviously has on offer. Because, Casey, they're just incredibly physical both on and off the ball. They don't make anything easy for opponents, and to your point, that's what played out down the stretch when they go on a 9-0 run at the end of that Duke game to be able to seal that thing out, and they just bring the pressure at the exact right time to make Duke uncomfortable.
Yeah, Duke's up 6 with the ball with a minute to go, and 90% of the coaches out there are going to foul in that situation and try to lengthen the game, bring as many possessions into the game as they can. But Houston, to their credit, and Coach knows his team, Coach Sampson knows his team, obviously, and they get a stop at a time where they literally, if they don't get a stop, the game is definitely over. But they get one, and then just kind of grind it out to the end. That's who they are. That's their makeup. That's what's made them so good, and why they're playing in the championship game.
The turnovers for Florida are obviously a flaw for them, and a flaw that they're often able to overcome, as we've seen. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Todd Golden had not won an NCAA tournament game prior to this year's tournament. Now he's won 5 in a row because he's got so much talent on that roster. As far as Houston goes, what's the potential flaw that you see for them, especially in a matchup against Florida?
Gosh, I don't know if I see a flaw. I mean, the reality is they're both top 10 in the country in offense and in defense.
Right.
Houston's the number 1 3-point shooting percentage team in the country right now, as of now. And you don't think that because you think they're such a defensive-oriented, blue-collar, grinded-out team, but they really shoot the ball well from the three-point line. Conversely, we talk about Florida being so good on offense and Clayton, but they're the 6th best three-point shoot percentage defense in the country. So something has to give there. That's going to tell us a lot about the end result of this of the game tonight. They're both great offensive rebounding teams, though. So I think that's clearly where Houston has the edge overall. In a game like this that you expect to go down to the wire, the team that can finish possessions on the defensive end with rebounds or find a way to get a cheap bucket or two on the offensive end is going to have the advantage, and I give that to Houston.
Talking about the men's national championship game tonight in college basketball with Coach Casey Alexander.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Coach, watching Walter Clayton, who you mentioned, just this run, 24.6 points per game. He's 8 of 16 from 3. Just in the last 2, he's shooting 56% from the floor. In these last 2 games, 64 points combined in the last 2 games going up against this Houston defense. It's the best defense that you've seen over the course of a college basketball season since any team that comes to mind?
Oh, gosh. No, not really, because I hadn't thought about it. But it's just what they've done is unmistakable. They are clearly the best defense, and it's clearly what they want to be. It's the makeup of Coach Sampson's teams for years. It's the reason why Houston has been so relevant over the last half dozen years, and you have to give them all the credit. I mean, a coach's primary job is, for the identity that he wants his team to have to play its way out on the floor, and nobody believes in who they are more than Houston does.
So you look at the paths a lot of these players took for both Florida and Houston, and a lot of it is polar opposite, Coach. Walter Clayton Jr. is a great example coming from Iona, where he was able to play for Rick Pitino, and then he comes to Florida, and he's really been a star in this tournament. And then on the Houston side, you have the likes of LJ Cryer, who knows what it's like to win a national championship game. And it seems like they have utilized the portal very heavily, but in very, very different ways to get to this point. How much do you think that experience, though, for Houston can be an edge, going and getting guys that have played big-time college basketball year over year? Or am I overemphasizing that when Walter Clayton Jr., despite coming from Iona, has basically dragged Florida to this point?
Yeah, I don't think it matters where they come from necessarily. You look at Florida's backcourt in its entirety. You've got Clayton from Iona. You got Martin from Florida Atlantic, who is not a Power 5 team, but they were in the Final Four just a couple of years ago. And then Will Richard from Belmont. How about this fun fact for you? Will Richard at Belmont beats Walter Clayton at Iona in Orlando 3 years ago in a Thanksgiving tournament. How about that? But you got Cryer. He's the Baylor guy, but Houston has more homegrown talent, more guys that have been in that program for longer, maybe a little bit more overall experience. But I think you're really trying to pluck hairs if you get to this point in the season and you're concerned about somebody's depth or talent or experience. I mean, these two teams have everything they need to be national champions.
If Walter Clayton has 25 points tonight, Florida wins?
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that they won't. But again, I would expect it to be a low-scoring game. I just don't think Houston – well, I could say it this way. If it's a high-scoring game, I don't see Houston winning the game.
Yeah.
I think everybody would probably agree to that. So the early flow of the game, are teams loose or shots going in? Is it a game where both sides are going to play with confidence? Or are they going to be a little tight? Is it going to be a little ugly? Is it going to be a little maybe even hard to watch at times early and then play its way out? I like Houston if we get the grinded out session. I like Florida if we get the nice, pretty going away in dramatic fashion.
Coach Casey Alexander here with us talking some college basketball tonight. You've got Florida against Houston. We're looking forward to it. It should be an electric finish.
So all 4 1 seeds in the Final Four, Coach, for only the 6th time ever, first time since 2008. And people are taking away grandiose reactions to that, right? Well, it's a product of the portal era. It's a product of NIL, that the higher seeds are going to continue to have success, that the NCAA tournament will be more and more chalky as some of the best players from those mid-majors move up, like we're seeing with Walter Clayton Jr. right now with Florida. Do you buy into that, or do you think that the NCAA tournament, for the most part, will remain what we're used to it being in the coming years, or maybe somewhere in the middle?
I'll say that I don't disagree with that. We do have the 4 number 1 seeds that advanced here to San Antonio, but we also had 3 number 2 seeds in the Elite 8, and the only one that wasn't was a 3 seed in Texas Tech. So pretty chalky all the way through there to the end. And some great teams. I think the difference now with NIL and what people are talking about, I think there are going to be more teams each year that we would all consider elite. I think if you look historically, we can probably point to 3 or 5, maybe 7 or 8 teams that are in the field that the winner is going to come from one of those teams. I think now you're looking at 15 to 20 who legitimately have rosters that are built in such a way that they can win a national championship. And so because of that, I do think that, the mid-majors of the world and the Cinderella stories, you're still going to see plenty of those in the first round. You're going to get the occasional Sweet 16 team, but it's going to be much more difficult, for the Florida Atlantics or the VCUs with Shaka Smart back in the day, or the Butlers that went back-to-back. Those kinds of teams, George Mason, who did it first. It's going to be more difficult for those teams to make it all the way to the Final Four, would be my opinion.
And Tennessee basketball, now in its offseason after losing to Houston in the Elite 8, has made a couple of additions. Most recently, Jalen Carey, the Vanderbilt forward, commits out of the portal to Tennessee. And then, of course, Jacoby Gillespie going from Maryland to Tennessee. And he obviously spent 2 years with you guys, y'all's lead scorer in the 23-24 season. Coach, what can you tell us about the time that you spent coaching Jacoby Gillespie and what you think he'll bring to Tennessee as they basically hit the reset button in the backcourt?
Yeah, I think I saw something that said Jacoby was maybe the number 3 guy in the portal to date this offseason. And so a huge pickup for Coach Barnes. When they were in town for the SEC tournament, they practiced at Belmont a time or two, and we had some Jacoby Gillespie conversations. And so I personally am glad that Jacoby's back home. He's a Greenville, Tennessee, East Tennessee guy. So great for he and his family to be back there. He'll be really good. I don't have any doubt that he'll be a difference maker for that team. You think about Ziegler and what he gave Tennessee over the course of his career and how awesome he was for Tennessee fans, just with his toughness and leadership and ability and everything else. Jacoby is not that kind of guy. Jacoby's a little bit more of a dynamic playmaker, scorer, a little bit more wide open offensively. So the thing with Jacoby that I want to see is, does he change their makeup offensively, or does he have to adapt to kind of the way Coach Barnes' teams have always looked on the floor offensively?
Coach, we so appreciate your time. Thanks for stopping by and getting us updated on everything that's gone down in San Antonio. Enjoy the game tonight. It should be electric.
We'll do it, guys. Thanks a lot for having me.
That's Casey Alexander, coach of Belmont Men's Hoops, and in his spare time, our tournament analyst, which we always appreciate Casey for. We still haven't decided on what we're going to get him, like a bottle of wine. I don't know if Casey likes cigars. I don't know what we need to do something for Casey at some point.
How about a basketball? Signed by the 3 of us. If we want to go real worthless with it.
Known athlete. Especially as I'm worried about you. The way that you are limping around here still.
I'm worried about me too.
It's almost been a week.
Yeah, I'm thinking about going in for an x-ray.
If you were a horse, they'd have put you down by now.
Without a doubt. All I've had is my fiance diagnose me, which she is qualified to do, but she doesn't have an x-ray to do it with. She's just poking and prodding my foot. Does it hurt here? Does it hurt here? Does it hurt here? So maybe I should get an x-ray. It's in bad shape.
If perhaps they cut it off, what would be the going rate for that foot? Do you think I would be able to keep it?
A Lucky Lucas foot that you put on a keychain and hang on your backpack?
Oh, I would just fill a jar with like formaldehyde and just keep it forever. Show it to my grandkids. Like, hey, this is my buddy's foot. One of my buddies, no lie, my friend's dad
does not have a foot in a jar somewhere.
No, it was a finger. He lost a finger in a woodcutting accident and kept it like that. Still got it.
I like to think if I lost an appendage like that, I would want to keep it.
I've told you guys, my dad has.
Want to keep
Yeah, well, what are you going to do with it? Throw it in the trash? Like, what are you going to do with it?
I'm sure they have a way to dispose of it that's not you just throwing it out with your Tuesday trash.
Yeah, and it ends up being on somebody else's foot. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll keep my foot.
Or in a jar in somebody else's living room.
Being someone else's foot, it's a severed foot. They're not going to reattach the foot.
Yeah, but I'm a good person, so I'm an organ donor. Of course, they would give
That's
it to
not an
someone.
organ.
They would give
It's
it
a
to someone
foot.
less fortunate who needs a foot buck. Stop being so close-minded.
They might not need it to attach to their body. They could use it for other things.
Also, the idea of you as an organ donor is objectively hilarious.
They would definitely not be able to use my liver or my lungs or my heart.
Your foot is
My kidneys.
among many things that they would throw in the
Pancreas.
garbage if they cut you open, and it just kind of like there's just kind of like a burst of cigarette smoke that comes out of your chest cavity.
Yeah, as soon as they open it up.
I don't think that's going to be the move.
They're
Oh, he was a heavy smoker.
all their goggles fog up.
It's just, no, we can't use any.
Can't
of this.
see anything.
Get this slap off the table. All right.
Did you see this quote from Jalen Carey, the Vanderbilt transfer to Tennessee?
Oh, I loved it.
You guys told me about it when we were getting ready for the show. Read it to me again.
So the Vanderbilt forward, who initially came to Vanderbilt from James Madison, following obviously Mark Byington there, now transfers to Tennessee, says, quote, "I'm a Vol now, man. Don't care about no black and gold. I bleed orange now, man. I don't care about what they've got to say."
Again,
Man.
money is always the answer to all of your questions.
8 points, 5.7 rebounds per game this season. I remember Carey getting in late foul trouble was a huge development in Tennessee's win over Vanderbilt at Thompson Bowling Arena, and he was excellent in Vanderbilt's win over Tennessee at Memorial Gym. But as much as the transfer portal has kind of, let's say, watered down the attachment that fan bases have to players and vice versa, right? When guys are playing for, in some cases, 3 to 4 different schools. In this case, it kind of fuels the fire of a rivalry a little bit when you got a guy going from Vandy to Tennessee and dropping that quote.
Sure. I'm so down for this mercenary environment that we've created in college athletics. I know that people don't love it, but it's this is what it is. It's professional sports.
You
They're
talk like
operating
that, though,
way.
and then you go to an Indiana game and you're like, I don't know any of these guys, man. These guys don't care about Indiana basketball.
Yeah, and I can have a problem with that as a fan, but as somebody who works in this industry, I understand that I'm not like covering college athletics day to day, but we kind of do around here. As somebody who works in the world of sports, I'm so good with this. So good with this. Even as the fan part of me dislikes it, I understand it. Both things can be so.
No, there have to be some checks and balances.
Sure.
No doubt about that.
We're in the exploratory phase. We'll figure it out.
To say the least.
Speaking of figuring it out, Alex Ovechkin, Alexander the Great, did something none of us thought we would ever see possible on the ice last night, even if it wasn't a loss. We'll talk about it coming up next. Trajan Wealth understands the importance of a diversified portfolio focusing on capital preservation, growth, and low-cost investment options. Let Trajan Wealth's fiduciary advisors help you craft a plan to meet your goals. Call Trajan Wealth today, because we've all lost sleep about financial situations at some point in our lives, certainly lately, with the way that the market has been operating. If you have any uncertainty about your financial future, don't sweat it. Don't pour over the numbers and freak out about it and feel like there's no path forward. Don't feel like you're drowning. Call Trajan Wealth today, and they will help you on a variety of different fronts. Did you know that leaving an old 401k with a previous employer can create higher investment costs? If you have an old 401k and you aren't sure what to do with it, call Trajan Wealth today to discuss how to optimize those funds and get that money working for you. Trajan Wealth is the best option out there, and they are available for you at 615-270-5000. That's 615-270-5000 or online at TrajanWealth.com. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This is a paid advertisement. Welcome back to the show on this Monday. A little chilly outside in Middle Tennessee, but that's all right. We're having a good time. Alex Ovechkin maybe would have liked to break the record, 895 goals on Sunday, passing Hall of Famer Wayne Gretzky. I'm sure he would have liked to have done it in a win. Instead, it was a 4-1 loss to the Islanders, but all the same, it's one of those records in sports that you thought, certainly in our lifetimes, you'd never see broken, and yet Alexander the Great, he does the impossible, and this is what it sounded last night, courtesy of the Capitals TV network.
Neutralized 13 of the last 14 shorthanded situations against them. Strome crisscrossing with Chikrin through center. Send in Wilson on the flank. Cross ice, Ovechkin fires! Score! The chasing days are done! Alex Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer in the history of the NHL.
The greatest goal scorer in the history of the NHL is a crazy thing to say, and he's probably right. I know by record, that is the truth, but it's one of those things in sports that you never thought you would see broken. And there's a list of all-time great accomplishments that I'm sure you could find and cite that may have been more unbreakable or less likely to have been broken than Wayne Gretzky's record, but he's awesome. Alexander Ovechkin is awesome, and even more awesome because of who he is as a person. You see this quote that was making the rounds. They had a game against the Chicago Blackhawks, who were just terrible this season, and they ended up having an empty net situation against Chicago. And Ovechkin, with an opportunity to potentially tie or break the record against Chicago, said, no, I want to do it with a goaltender in the crease. I'm not going out there with an empty netter to be able to break Wayne Gretzky's record. I want to earn it. I love that. A king for all times, even if, there's some complicated feelings around Russia right now.
And a trademark way to score it, too. Alexander Ovechkin, one of the best of all time in terms of shot speed, and that was just an absolute bullet, burning a hole through the back of the net. Unbreakable record, or so we thought. And here's the crazy thing. Wayne Gretzky hit 894 in 1,487 games. Alexander Ovechkin hits 895 in 1,487 games.
Crazy.
That is wild.
Fate. Some might say.
Fate indeed, the exact same amount of games. And how about the Islanders crowd? They went nuts. They went
you have to.
Bonkers.
You're witnessing history.
I mean, if you are an Islanders fan there, that has to be one of the coolest sports experiences of your life, because you got the win, number one, a win that you desperately needed as they're trying to climb into the playoff picture, and you got to see history. So very, very cool. Even the Islanders home call, you would have thought it was a Capitals broadcast because they just went insane. So just really cool to see that enthusiasm shared across the board. And obviously it gets you thinking about unbreakable records elsewhere, or records that we believe to be unbreakable, like we did about the Wayne Gretzky goal record, that maybe aren't as much. Because in hockey in particular, this is such a huge deal, because I feel like hockey is the sport where there is the least amount of debate about who the GOAT is.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Wayne Gretzky. Everywhere else, it's Jordan and LeBron.
He is the great one.
Right. We're even into that stratosphere in the NFL. Like, Mahomes is going to have to win a few more Super Bowls, but there's already plenty of people that already want to crown Pat Mahomes as the greatest quarterback that's ever played the game over Tom Brady. So
he's the most talented quarterback I've ever seen.
Like, where else is there a sport where there's no debate?
You would have to soccer.
Oh, there's so much debate. It's
right?
Pele, it's Maradona, it's Messi, it's Ronaldo.
Yeah, so soccer, obviously, and so many more athletes from so many different places to pull from. Hockey is as close as you could get to that, given the international scale of the game, but still, it really comes back to Wayne Gretzky. So now Ovechkin has at least opened up that conversation to where people who didn't get the opportunity to watch Wayne Gretzky as a player, the way that a lot of people haven't, will recognize Ovechkin as their great one. And for hockey diehards, and their hockey guy and golf guy are two of the most strident people on the internet if you don't speak their exact language. And I'm sure there are still people today who would take issue with that goal call, calling Ovechkin the greatest goal scorer of all time. I'm sure there are plenty of hockey purists who would come out of the woodwork and start a fight about Wayne Gretzky versus Alex Ovechkin. But I think that's what makes sports, it makes it more compelling. I like the idea that there's at least a conversation to be had now in the NHL.
It's not a conversation. Wayne Gretzky is still the GOAT. There's no debate about that. By the way, this is just regular season goals. If we go ahead and tack on the postseason, it's not close. Like, Wayne Gretzky is still above and beyond. There is no debate now that, who's the GOAT of hockey, Ovi or Gretzky? But still, it was what was thought to be an unbreakable record. I'm just curious. Tyler Dial says women's tennis is one.
Only
where it's
issue,
just not debatable.
Oh, yeah,
with
for
Serena.
Sure. Only issue that I had with any of this is there was a 25-minute ceremony in the middle of the game with a presentation for Ovechkin. And listen, there is no, it's priceless, the moment that he had. Again, you would like for him to have done it in a win. That's fine. Doesn't always work that way, but a 25-minute ceremony in the middle of all that was a little much.
We did just have a caller say that if you take away, and I could be completely wrong in this because I know absolutely zero about hockey, but if you took away all of Wayne Gretzky's goals, he would still be higher in scoring than Ovi in points because of his assists.
Yes, it's insane. Like,
does that factor into the greatest goal scorer? I guess goal scorer specifically.
You have to make it a very specific conversation if Ovechkin's going to have a seat at the table.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the more you look at what Gretzky has done compared to everybody else, the more it's like, this isn't even. I think there's a bigger gap between Gretzky and all the other greats in hockey than any other sport. Like, maybe Serena is a good example. People are saying golf in the FNM Bank chat. Is that to say Tiger? There's debate there, right? I don't think, there's many people that believe Tiger Woods to be the best men's golfer of all time, but I bet there would be some pushback on that.
Scotty Scheffler been on an ungodly run.
He's not the GOAT.
No, I know, but in the future, could you make an argument for another athlete as we get into Masters Week? By the way,
swimming.
Congratulations to all of us. Swimming is a really, really good one.
Michael Phelps.
Well, if are you making this specific to men's, or are you making this
anything? Yeah, again, Serena on the women's side, it is the GOAT of women's tennis. There's no debate.
You could argue Jack Nicklaus in golf, though. Doesn't he have more
That's
majors than Tiger?
Yes.
I do not want to have. We are basically doing a version of a Mount Rushmore conversation.
We're doing LeBron Jordan.
It's not summer yet.
I don't want to. Even in the summer, it makes my skin crawl. Let's not. So the thing that I'm going to say, though, is that because there are lists out there of the most unbreakable sports records, right? And one that caught my eye in particular that I think it's going to be impossible for anybody to top is Brady. You've got 100,000 at. Hang on. Okay. 102,614 career passing yards, 737 career touchdown passes. He's the oldest quarterback to win a Super Bowl at 43 years, 6 months, and 4 days. He has 7 Super Bowl wins. He has 286 career wins, playoffs included. There are any number of Brady records that would be tough to top. I don't know. Maybe you get an older quarterback. But even still,
with modern science, man,
he would have to be a genetically mutated freak to last longer than Tom Brady did. I understand that if Brady did it, maybe somebody else can, but all of those numbers are insane. Insane. Tom Brady has changed the way in which we think quarterbacks are supposed to age, which is stupid because it's just the one that's done it. So I would probably go, I take your pick of any number of Brady records.
I don't know.
It would be impossible to break.
Mahomes is already almost halfway to that Super Bowl mark, and he's not even 30 yet.
Look at it, almost halfway.
Hey, I'm just saying, man.
It's a lot harder than you think.
20 years from now, we might have 60-year-olds throwing touchdowns out there. I don't know.
If Robert had his way, it would look like that for these minor league football organizations or pay-for-play football organizations that are semi-pro stuff.
We're still learning about these things. Brady's TB12 method had him winning a Super Bowl at 43. Patrick Mahomes' PM15 method of Dino Nuggies and ketchup could have him throwing touchdowns at 65. Like, who's to say?
Ageless wonder. Worst landing spots for the top 3 players that will be left at the top of the draft, because we know who's going number 1 overall. So let's talk about how the draft order may fall and how that might impact some of these prospects coming up next.
It is 11:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans were in attendance for Colorado's Pro Day on Friday as both Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter worked out. The Titans met with Sanders briefly after the workout and canceled his private workout with the team that was scheduled to happen later this week. National Hockey League news over the weekend. Capitals star Alexander Ovechkin broke Wayne Gretzky's career goals record Sunday, scoring against the Islanders for his 895th career NHL goal. Meanwhile, the Preds lost a 6 straight, 2-1 against the Canadiens. Only 5 games remain in the regular season. Major League Baseball, the Toronto Blue Jays are signing first baseman Vlad Guerrero Jr. to a mega deal, 14 years, $500 million, pending a physical. UConn women's basketball are national champs for the 12th time in program history, blowing out South Carolina Sunday 82-59. The men's national championship happens tonight in San Antonio, Florida versus Houston. You can hear the game right here on The Zone, courtesy of Westwood One. Meanwhile, Tennessee's offseason has begun in the transfer portal, securing commitments from former Belmont and Maryland guard Jacoby Gillespie over the weekend, as well as former Vanderbilt forward Jalen Carey. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
These last couple of weeks are going to drag by before the NFL draft, but you don't have to worry about that. You know who your team is taking. You know that the Tennessee Titans are going to draft Cam Ward with the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft unless something unthinkable happens by way of trade or otherwise. The least likely scenario is that you pick number 1 overall and the selection is not Cam Ward, the Miami quarterback. So if the draft starts at 2, how does that change the conversation about, for example, if you're a Titans fan viewing this from your perspective, where is the run on the pass rushers going to start, or the wide receivers? How might that impact it? Don't you want Jackson Dart to go in the first round to potentially push down some other positions of need? Those kind of conversations can start to be had. And there's an interesting tidbit here about Travis Hunter from the Pro Day that I think we have to talk about in this hour as well. 615-737-1045 is the number. Lucas, Burt, and me with you until 1 o'clock today, as is the custom. The F&M Bank chat, always at your disposal. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. So if I asked you, all right, let's leave Cam Ward out of the conversation because we're pretty sure. We're about 99.99999% sure where Cam Ward's going to be. Who are the top 3 players remaining in the NFL draft, and is Shedeur Sanders one of them? There is a great deal of variance on this perspective. It probably depends on which team that you're talking to. He is the second best quarterback prospect in the class. That does not, by nature, make him a top 3 player remaining after Cam Ward comes off the board.
Are you asking the top 3 picks after Cam Ward,
no,
or top
I'm
3
asking
prospects?
you, who are the top 3 prospects if Cam Ward is gone?
Okay, at no point has Shedeur Sanders been in that conversation, right?
He has been talked about as potentially being the number 2 overall pick.
Yep.
But that does not make him a top 3 or 4 prospect.
Yeah, at no point
in this class
has he been discussed as a top 3 or 4 overall prospect in this class. Cam Ward even has not been discussed very much as a top 3 or 4 overall prospect. Both of those guys, most of the experts have in that, 10 to 12 range at best.
I think Cam Ward's gotten up into, I believe most teams would have Cam Ward with a first-round grade at this point in time.
And positional value inevitably comes into the picture. But with Shedeur Sanders, I feel like that's not been part of the discussion at all in this pre-draft process, is him even being close to that discussion.
So let's first start with this audio from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, who was on SportsCenter yesterday talking about the top 3 teams and what they expect to do with each of their first-round picks.
Is with us. So what are you hearing from the teams with the top 3 picks? Start at the Titans in number 1, please, sir.
Yeah, Jay, the people I've talked to with other teams picking in the top 10 and people inside the Titans organization do believe that Cam Ward, the Miami quarterback, will be the pick. They'd be surprised if he's not. Now, the Titans have not made a firm determination. Their front office is still going through the process. They would entertain a trade if they're wowed by one, and teams could be calling in the next few weeks. But Ward has clearly separated himself as QB1 in this draft. I'm told the Titans have been very pleased with his process off the field, his demeanor. They feel like they've got along really well, have some chemistry. So all signs appear to be pointing that way, barring a surprise. Now, Cleveland Browns, they are mysterious right now, and I think they like to be. They're enjoying this process. I show Abdul Carter here because the Browns have spent a significant amount of time with Carter through the last few weeks of this process. He has felt the love, the connection with that team. So if time invested tells us anything, he could very well be the pick opposite Myles Garrett. But they have a short list. Shedeur Sanders is on it. Travis Hunter is on it. Mason Graham, the big defensive tackle from Michigan, is on it. Now let's go to the Giants. So a little bit different here. People I talked to that were at Colorado's showcase earlier this week said that they believe the Giants will take either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, whoever's there. Okay. Now, certainly they've done a lot of homework on the quarterbacks, including Shedeur Sanders. But a lot of teams I've talked to picking inside the top 10 believe that they've kind of tipped their hand signing Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston because they're pretty loaded up there on the veteran quarterback market. Will they add a draft pick too? It's a long draft. Certainly day 2, they could try to finagle and move around and get a passer as well.
Motion to ban all rights-free music played behind highlights on any sports television platform ever. But either way, that's not the important part. The important part, you knew Cam Ward, likely going to be a pick for the Titans. It would be a huge upset if he was not. Cleveland gets a lot more interesting because they have a clear and obvious quarterback need, but the next best quarterback may not even have a first-round grade from a good portion of teams and talent evaluators, both from the external perspective, people who are working as scouts, but from a media standpoint, speaking of which, Todd McShay is going to be on the radio show on Wednesday at 12:20, Bert, if I'm not mistaken. Todd McShay now over the Ringer. So we'll get into some draft analysis with him there. And we had Field Yates on the Fox Sports National show yesterday talking about this exact same thing. The thing that I think changes the dialogue around here, because the worst possible scenario for Shedeur is that he gets drafted by the Browns, right? Maybe not from a financial standpoint, but if you overdraft Shedeur Sanders, a player who is going to be very specific in what he needs to be able to operate your offense at a high enough level. Tim Hasselbeck compared him recently to Andy Dalton. That got some headlines for no other. Andy Dalton had a hugely successful NFL career as a former second-round pick. But because Shedeur's last name is Sanders, that's almost taken as some kind of slight. Either of these guys would be lucky to have the career of Andy Dalton.
Yeah, people forget Andy Dalton was a competent starting quarterback for multiple seasons.
At times, a high-level starting quarterback in one of the toughest divisions in football.
But why would Shedeur to Cleveland be any worse than Shedeur to the Giants?
No, I'm saying that Shedeur dropping is the best-case scenario. Out of the top 5 is the best-case scenario because, for the obvious reasons, you're going to better teams.
Yeah, but if we're talking about worst-case scenario, I'd put him 3 at the Giants, worse than 2 at the Browns. But I get what you're saying in principle. Dropping puts him in a better situation.
So, your point is well taken. The worst-case scenario between the two teams who are picking second and third would be New York over Cleveland. But the worst-case scenario for Shedeur on the whole would be being overdrafted just because he's the second-best quarterback or the best quarterback remaining when there's a significant gulf between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. For Travis Hunter, he seems to want to play wide receiver more than he wants to play corner. He didn't do corner drills at the showcase. He ran routes.
Do you blame him?
No. I mean, maybe, certainly not from a financial standpoint. It makes way more sense for Travis Hunter to want to be a wide receiver because the paychecks are $40 million a year.
Well, we know the Titans view him as a corner. The Titans, all signs point to Cam Ward. Okay, if Titans to Cam Ward, or Cam Ward to the Titans, I should say, is a lock, who's on the clock? Cleveland, the team that I think is most vocal about he's a wide receiver.
Andrew Berry was specifically asked about it at the Combine and said that he viewed him as a wide receiver,
Yes.
that he viewed Travis Hunter as a wide receiver.
So that makes sense to me. If Travis Hunter believes at this point that he's not going to be the number one pick, something he has said is very important to him, then he damn sure wants to be the number 2 overall pick. And he knows that the team with the number 2 overall pick would put him out there at wide receiver. So that made all the sense in the world to me. Plus, more teams than not, I think, would start Travis Hunter at corner. So if he wants to make up ground in how he is viewed as a prospect at wide receiver, the position where his ceiling is higher in terms of potential pay and contract money, then that makes all the sense in the world to me to showcase that at the pro day and not the cornerback skills, which we know he has.
But the problem for Cleveland is something that we can get into coming up next. Because, again, you've seen their quarterback roster. You know that it's suspect. And there will be quarterbacks available to them where they currently sit at number 2 overall. So we'll talk about should the Browns be the team to draft Travis Hunter and what the conversation is like in Cleveland. Because, of course, all of these things will dictate how it plays out for the Titans when we get to the second round. This Thursday of the first round of the NFL draft on Thursday, April the 24th, is going to be fascinating for a great many reasons. And Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Jackson Dart, all of them are fascinating for a number of different reasons. So we will talk about that. Should Cleveland be the team to take Travis Hunter, or does their quarterback need outweigh the best player available type of strategy? I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. Tummy's starting to rumble. Lunch right around the corner. If you're thinking about lunch, you should be thinking about Hattie B's. You should be thinking about the mobile app that they have. You can get Hattie B's delivered to you. You can stop by any one of their Middle Tennessee locations. Lucas is currently bragging about his rock band accolades to Robert.
Surprised you heard that.
I have one headphone off. It's not like you're a quiet person.
This song was...
I'm trying to open the segment up. I just hear Lucas screaming into the microphone to Robert in the talkback. I used to tear this song up on Rock Band. Sick brag, bro.
It was a regular in the rotation, this song.
God.
Don't worry, Lucas. He can't hear anything I say to you, though. So
Okay, good.
Operating actually in the shadows. It's been a while. I'm out of practice. I used to send you to the shadows once an hour. You've gotten too accustomed to the light of day. This is some kind of newfound entitlement that you have since you've climbed to the ranks of corporate radio executive.
please call me by my technical term.
Triple B.
I will not. So cute that two of you said that in unison as well. The problem for this draft is teams all over the place have quarterback needs. The team at the top of the draft, the Tennessee Titans, with the number 1 overall pick, they seem to have a resolution. Though it's not set in stone yet, we are slightly more than 2 weeks away from the NFL draft and Cam Ward, in all likelihood, being the next quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. But the draft then starts at 2, and Cleveland is in not such an easy situation to work their way out of. Now, they got options. But if you're a Cleveland fan today, I mean, it's kind of the same version of Titans fans conversation. I'm sure some Titans fans, if they were picking 2 instead of 1, and they were in the spot that the Browns were in, I'm sure there'd be plenty of Titans fans who would be clamoring for Shedeur Sanders just because he's a quarterback, ignoring some of the things that may or may not make him an actual first-round grade of a prospect. So this is courtesy of ESPN Cleveland, with them having this same conversation, because Travis Hunter is the best player on the board, but he doesn't play quarterback, and that doesn't solve anything for them.
This line about they like Shedeur, but they don't like him enough to take him at 2. Well, I'm here to tell you, folks, the only people keeping score are the people doing mock drafts. As a Browns fan, I need a quarterback. I can't go anywhere until I get the quarterback. Value and who's worth this and who's worth... Can you win with that guy? Then who the hell cares where you take him? You can have the best receiver of all time. If you have nobody to throw him the football, what the hell good is it? You're in denial. You need a quarterback. And there's a kid worth taking a chance on. You don't want to do it. Okay, fine.
I get it. I mean, we've had versions of that here, right? Where, but if they get a great trade offer, but who plays quarterback?
I know.
I'm sure
and
people
the answer
in
for them
Cleveland,
is Kenny Pickett.
They're just tearing their hair out. Well, last week,
old whopper hands, Kenny Pickett.
And I'd be curious to hear how much you heard about this, or how much discussion there was about this down at owners' meetings. Because last week, a lot of the scuttlebutt, the hullabaloo, a lot of the
stop using these words,
brouhaha, if you will.
Nobody calls it that.
Was Kirk Cousins potentially in a trade to Cleveland, where it would just make sense, right? Yeah. And he's pictured at a Chipotle right outside of Cleveland, allegedly a mile away from the official Browns team doctor's office, where obviously they would have to trade for him. But you've got Myles Garrett kind of with a cheeky grin in an interview with that same radio station, ESPN Cleveland, insinuating that they've laid out some sort of quarterback plan for him that, made him want to remain in Cleveland, plus $40 million a year helps. So Kirk Cousins was the name that we kept bringing up in regards to the Cleveland Browns last week. Obviously, they'd have to acquire him in a trade with the Falcons.
The thing that I heard at owners' meetings, and I'm sure it depends on who you talk to, but there have been certain assurances guaranteed to Arthur Blank, who is the owner of the Falcons, that they are going to have stability in their quarterback room that features Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix. Because for some reason, that's the way that Arthur Blank, who owns the Atlanta Falcons, wants to move forward. It may not make sense from a roster construction standpoint. It may not make sense if you're Terry Fontenot, the general manager. It certainly didn't make sense to give Kirk Cousins $180 million a year just to bench him for a player that you took with the 8th overall pick, which made not a ton of sense to a lot of people at the time, but ended up being to their benefit. They want to hedge their bets with Kirk Cousins as the backup, even if it doesn't make sense to us. So I would be shocked if Kirk Cousins is somewhere that's not Atlanta this year.
Shocked?
When the season starts, I would be shocked.
Shocked is too strong.
The owner feels that certain guarantees have been made to him about the roster and the construction of it and the safety net that they have at quarterback. Unless there's somebody who's going to supersede Arthur Blank as the owner of the Falcons, then I don't think it matters what makes sense.
I mean, you've got a quote from Arthur Blank with SiriusXM saying, whatever ends up happening with Kirk, I wish him well. I want it to be good for him. I know he spent a long time on the phone with Kirk Cousins, apparently took 5 pages of notes, which he then handed down to the Falcons front office and do with this what you will, a manifesto of sorts. I don't know. Kirk Cousins wants to start. And I know you acknowledge none of that would make sense. So what would make sense is a team like the Browns, who need a quarterback, acquiring a quarterback from a team like the Falcons, who don't need a starting quarterback. That is what would make
needs
sense.
Everywhere. No, I get it. There are plenty of things that would make sense in the NFL that don't end up happening.
But at the quarterback position, though, I feel like usually the thing that makes sense, in other words, a team needing a quarterback and going and getting a quarterback.
Think about the team that you're talking about, the team that completely confounded you last year at this time because they took Michael Penix 8th overall.
Yeah.
You're expecting them to fall in line with conventions after they did probably the most unconventional thing that any team did in the first round of the draft last year, because that's what they wanted to do.
There's
also
easy.
No way that Arthur Blank wasn't informed of that when they took Michael Penix, or at least prepared for that scenario when they took Michael Penix. I know there's some videos of, I think it's Fontenot, right? Kind of putting his arm around Arthur Blank's shoulder and kind of explaining it to him.
Trust the process.
You're trying to lip read at that point in time to discern what actually is being said between these two people. I acknowledge that it would make 0 sense for Kirk Cousins to still be on Atlanta's roster, 53-man roster, when the regular season starts. But I think it's the most likely scenario.
It's also easy to say, we like Kirk Cousins, we want him on this roster, until the Browns come over and slap something onto the table
and
says, this is what we'll give you.
Easy to say that the Titans like Cam Ward, unless somebody comes in with a Godfather offer and makes these trades. They're there until they're not. So I'm going to operate as if it's a higher percentage chance that Kirk Cousins is the backup quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons because he's under contract there. And it would
sure.
It would take something substantial to get him out.
Higher percentage chance, without a doubt, because he's there. But
And
to
if
say
you're
you'd
Arthur
be
Blank.
shocked, you'd be blindsided.
Yes.
Come on.
Because if you're Arthur Blank, the money's spent. You've already spent the money for Kirk Cousins. That's a sunk cost. You're going to have to eat money to move him. So if you're Arthur Blank, you're looking around and be like, yeah, okay, I've paid this money out. I might as well have a backup quarterback situation or a quarterback room that I trust is as much as protected from variance as any in the league, because Kirk Cousins is a viable starter, or has been, across the course of his career. I don't know how much he still has left in the tank. What is he, 35, 36?
He is 36, will be 37 in August. But the Browns could take on some of that money. Like, you can still offload a good portion of that money. It's a huge contract.
Does it supersede what the owner wants? And that I think is at the crux of the question for the Atlanta Falcons. And that's only something that Arthur Blank can answer. So we'll see how it plays out. But I don't have any sense. And it's not like I'm covering all 32 teams. Like, I'm not Rossini or Rappaport or any of that running around out here. But you do get a sense of what teams are thinking when everybody's in the same place talking about the same kind of stuff, whether or not they're on SiriusXM or not. And it feels like the sense is that Kirk Cousins is most likely to end up in Atlanta.
Okay,
to
but
stay in Atlanta.
Also, what does Kirk Cousins want? And I know that the Falcons don't have to do anything based on what Kirk Cousins wants, but oftentimes I feel like when a player, especially a quarterback, is pretty outspoken on what he wants, he's not going to be held hostage.
And he's not been shy about these comments.
Right. Like, Kirk Cousins wants to start in 2025. So how much does that factor in here? How much would the Falcons be concerned? Not to say this would be a concern of Kirk Cousins, who, by all accounts, is a phenomenal teammate, leader, all these things, but that you'd have a malcontent of sorts as your backup quarterback who wanted to start, felt like there was an opportunity to move him to be a start.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to do their job at the end of the day. Kirk Cousins is not so unprofessional that he's going to, start to undermine the Falcons organization.
But I don't think it's irrelevant what he wants in all of this.
It is not irrelevant, but it is one of the least relevant parts about this.
I imagine he laid that out to Arthur Blank in their lengthy phone call.
I imagine that Kirk Cousins wasn't thrilled with the idea that they took Michael Penix 8th overall, and they did it anyway. So, Kirk Cousins' feelings here don't necessarily matter.
But I wonder if it matters to them. What are you wanting out of Kirk? Do you want Kirk to mentor and help him prepare for games? Because, if he comes into that disgruntled and he doesn't really want to put forth the necessary effort to help him do that.
No, don't drag me into another mentor game.
No, I'm just saying, if he came in begrudged, why would I help this kid prepare? I'll help him, but I'm not going to help him to the best of my ability.
I mean, that is a huge part of the value of having Kirk Cousins as your backup, right? For
That's
a young quarterback.
They all do, though. That's by percentage chance. They all are begrudged in some form or fashion because, again, the way that these players think about this is I am taking food or somebody is coming to take food off my family's table.
There's plenty of backup quarterbacks. Andy Dalton is not begrudged because he's backing up Bryce Young. Brandon Allen is not going to be fuming because he's backing up Cam Ward.
You're talking about a different situation. Andy Dalton is at a different stage of acceptance in his career. Kirk Cousins is not. Ryan Tannehill was not. Joe Flacco was not. There are a million examples of this where they are not going to actively undermine the player that's in the same room as them, but they're not going to go out of their way to help them either. That's the NFL. That's professional sports. It's competition.
No, I agree with you. I wasn't saying this to start an argument. I was saying this to say,
too late.
If that's what you want, if you're Arthur Blank and you're like, okay, I want someone who's going to do that. There are quarterbacks available who would be more likely to do that at a better clip, much cheaper.
But they are also worse players than Kirk Cousins is.
Sure, but I mean, I would argue that if Penix goes down, your season's pretty trashed anyway.
Maybe not.
And that is what
that's kind of what I mean. I know that's not a great pushback, but maybe not. Maybe Kirk saves us.
Sure, I mean, that's my question to Arthur Blank or the Falcons. Are you keeping Kirk to potentially float you guys along for 4 games? Are you keeping him to prepare Trevor Penix? What is
Michael Penix?
Michael Penix. What is the main attractor for keeping him on your roster? And then to answer that, would you be able to find someone to do that cheaper and better while also taking money off the books and acquiring an asset?
Now, it's an interesting conversation because that's where a Will Levis could come into play, right? Once teams have their quarterback situations, I'm not talking about Atlanta specifically, but the quarterback dominoes that fall. All right, we've gotten through this process. We've gotten through the draft. We've seen where the dust is settled. Now there's maybe more of a market for a Will Levis type of player in a situation should, for example, and I don't think this is realistic, but Atlanta moves Kirk. All right, they need another quarterback. All right, let's go get Levis. He's cheap. He's cost effective. He's not going to cost us a bunch of draft capital. We'll give up a future 6th for Will Levis, and we'll put him in behind Michael Penix, and maybe it's not the most trustworthy backup quarterback situation, but by again, logically, something like that makes a ton of sense. Arthur Blank does not have to operate logically, though. He can do whatever he wants with this, and it seems like what he wants is to keep Kirk Cousins as his backup quarterback.
There's just enough smoke here. There's Kirk Cousins who wants to be a starter. There's Dan Orlovsky going on the Pat McAfee show saying he believes Kirk Cousins will be a Brown. There's Diana Rossini on her podcast saying nobody should be surprised if Kirk Cousins ends up a Brown. There's the fact that he is a starting caliber quarterback on that money, currently in a backup role, and the Browns are sitting over here with no quarterback. And I'm sure they would love to draft the best overall player in this draft, which is Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. Sounds like if you listen to Andrew Berry, for them, it's Travis Hunter. So there's just too much smoke around this for me to say I'd be blindsided shocked if Kirk Cousins went to Cleveland.
615-737-1045 is the number. If you want to join the conversation, you are welcome to do so. Again, it is one of the things that makes this draft cycle compelling because there's a million different ways that a lot of these teams. Bert, if I'm not mistaken, all 32 teams own their original first-round pick, which almost never happens in a draft cycle too. So that adds a little bit of extra intrigue as to how these teams will go about maneuvering, if they decide to maneuver, in this year's NFL draft. Speaking of the NFL draft, it's right around the corner, and the tickets for the Install Live with Greg Cosell. You know you're drafting a quarterback. You know that Greg Cosell is coming in here, flying in here from Philadelphia, from NFL Films headquarters, to break down your 2025 free agent acquisitions and Titans draft class. We fully expect that Titans draft class to feature the quarterback out of Miami. And if you want to be in the house for that live show, we're going to have a great time with you in the Analog Room at the Hutton Hotel on Friday, May the 2nd. Tickets are still available, though they're selling out quickly at 1045thezone.com. Special thanks to Two Rivers Ford, Hattie B's, and Wholesale Supply, who are making the install live with Greg Cosell possible on Friday, May the 2nd. All right, so we had Field Yates on the Fox Sports National Show yesterday, me and Jason Fitz. We were on from 4 to 7, and Field Yates was kind enough, dealing with some kind of situation with his children in the meantime, which is really good of Field to do the interview anyway. But we asked him specifically about Travis Hunter because he was at the Colorado Pro Day, and he afterwards, Lucas, said he had never seen a player like Hunter before, specific to the workout, understanding he's seen all the tape. This was Field Yates yesterday on Fox Sports Radio.
Travis Hunter, when I arrived to Colorado the night before the pro day, there was some uncertainty whether he would do anything. And given how much he's accomplished and being the reigning Heisman Trophy winner and being in this era that we're in now where we don't necessarily see everything from the top prospects before the draft, if he had done nothing, I wouldn't have faulted him one bit. He decided, though, to catch passes from Shedeur Sanders, and just seeing him warm up, I swear it was like watching NFL general managers and coaches and scouts and imagining them admiring their children at their own sporting events. That's how close attention so many onlookers were paying to Travis Hunter. And then the way that he moves, it's almost like a video game who is like, you don't really know how to describe it other than that. But the movement skills are so sudden, yet he's so controlled. He was going no gloves throughout the workout. Apparently he doesn't even need gloves to have the kind of hands that he does. He just was effortless in every single way. And, I know one of the big questions about Travis Hunter, for those that are picking the smallest of nits with him, is how big is he? And he's a lean guy for sure, but he looked like he was closer to 6'1" to me than maybe where he had been listed at previously. So the size wasn't really a concern for me going into the pro day, but I left the pro day feeling even less concerned about it. So the Titans are probably going to head towards Cam 1 at number 1 overall. I don't have a major issue with that. Of course, this team has kind of forecasted its move with the way that it's treated the quarterback position this offseason. That being said, given how much uncertainty there is between the next best quarterback in the draft class, I would be very surprised if the Browns can bring themselves to passing on Travis Hunter at number 2 overall.
That's Field Yates yesterday on Fox Sports Sunday with Jason Fitz and me. You can go check out the podcast and hear the full Field Yates interview that Fitzy and I did on Fox Sports Radio's podcast page. So you hear Field, who's a former scout, now working as a scout in the media, in attendance at Travis Hunter's pro day, talking about him specifically and the way that NFL general managers were taking in his workout and understanding that he did not backpedal once in that showcase, but he decided that he was going to run routes specifically. I think he wants to be drafted as a wide receiver, and that's why Cleveland makes all the sense in the world.
Yep. What would be the worst situation for him? Between, let's say, who would be actual contenders to be able to draft Travis Hunter? It's really Cleveland, the Giants, and the Patriots, right? We can pretty much limit it to those three.
Yeah, the answer feels like, oh, man.
Even falling to 4 would feel like a stretch. The Browns would have to draft Shedeur Sanders. The Giants then would have to like Abdul Carter.
Everything just seems to come back to New York to me.
Yeah, but Travis Hunter, we agree, doesn't fall further than 4. Like, that feels like the basement for Travis Hunter.
Stunned. If he got past Cleveland and New York, I think Vrabel would take him just to try and figure it out, right? Like, you can't be so confident as a coach and then pass on the guy who's one of the most talented players we've ever seen.
I'll be honest, though, when we posed the question, what would be the worst landing spot for him, Patriots came to mind for me.
Why? They need wide receivers. I don't know that they view him as a wide receiver.
I would worry about his long-term availability playing for Mike Vrabel.
Why do you say that?
Because of the Titans' injury history with Vrabel as the head coach and examples of players under Vrabel, like a Christian Fulton, that would miss 4 to 6 games annually, goes on to the Chargers, remarkably healthy season. The wear and tear of how Vrabel coaches his teams, there's no science to tell us that that's why the Titans were one of, if not the most injured team in the NFL for 3 seasons in a row.
Christian Fulton's thing was soft tissue.
Sure, yes.
And he missed time with a hamstring in L.A.
And he missed 1 or 2 games. And a lot of it was John Robinson drafting players with injury history, signing players with injury history. But Mike Vrabel left as the head coach here, and the Titans got remarkably better on the injury front. So...
yeah, but I don't think the correlation. I think that's just circumstantial as much as anything.
It might be.
That's not a conversation that I think we're equipped to have because we don't have the data to back it up.
We don't have the data to back it up, but it's still something that just kind of lingers in the back of my mind.
No, that's fair.
The one place I do agree with you, Lucas, is I think the Patriots are equipped to use him on both sides of the ball more so than other teams.
And Mike would try it.
Where he wouldn't have to be the number 1 corner because they already have a fantastic corner in Christian Gonzalez. He wouldn't have to necessarily be the number 1 receiver.
And who did they sign in free agency?
Carlton Davis.
And who's
from
missed
Detroit.
Who's missed some time?
He missed time with a broken jaw, though. That wasn't necessarily like a game injury. It was a game injury, but not like a tissue injury.
He's a little older, though, too, right?
I think he's around 28, if I had to guess.
Every Vrabel team had extreme injury issues here for the most part. So, especially in those last 3 years.
God, I'm good. He's 28.
There you go. So, it is something I think about.
Extreme injury issues, and other than from 21 on, for sure.
Yeah, from 21 on, we'll say.
21 on, for sure. But that includes Caleb Farley in the middle of all that, which is not something that I would associate with practice time. I mean, the thing... like Derrick Henry hardly ever practiced. Ben Jones hardly ever practiced.
Oh, no, there's
like,
a million variables. There's a million variables.
So again, I understand why you would feel that way just based on how the last 3 years went. But again, in the same way, like if the Titans have a horrendous injury year, are we going to start scrutinizing Brian Callahan's strength and conditioning staff and practice habits or those kind of things? When you look at the number of injuries that they had, I don't want to relitigate this, but so many of them were on the field. It's Treylon Burks, it's Farley, it's all these different pieces and parts that were prone to that type of situation anyway. And frankly, the players weren't good enough that you couldn't make them interchangeable.
Did you hear that, Robert? I went after his precious Vrabel.
Spoke up real quick.
I think we got him worked up.
He is going to eat his cornbread. Matter of fact, I'm going to eat his cornbread with him. You can't have it.
I just think it's in the same way that we did it when he was here. Do you have more information?
No.
Since he's left? So I think it's a moot point.
Other than saying it's circumstantial or coincidence, right? Because that's essentially what it would have to be.
And there's nothing wrong with that because, again, I covered that 2021 season. They went through the most players. They dressed more players in that season than any other.
Yeah. And then they damn near broke it the following year. So I'm just
pretty
saying,
close.
I mean, there's a lot that I'm going to be fascinated to see about Mike Vrabel and the New England Patriots as it is fully his show.
No, what I will tell you is he damn well better win. He damn well better win because he's being treated as some kind of war hero out here, and I don't necessarily think that that's earned just yet. 615-737-1045 is the number. Why the hell does it say, can Cooper Flagg run it back in the grid? Which one of you? Which one of you possibly thinks he's... I mean, we can talk about it. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. So for some reason, I don't know which one of you two wants to even entertain the idea that Cooper Flagg might go back to Duke. Obviously, Houston advancing to the national championship game tonight. They'll take on Florida, who gets by Auburn in Final Four weekend. And, of course, the greatest, I don't know if it's even controversy, but the greatest surprise out of the Final Four weekend was the way that Duke lost, being in control of that game the entire time. Cooper Flagg having a chance to do it at the end, missing the shot that not a single person in the world, in the college basketball consuming world, thought he was actually going to miss. And, it just happens that way sometimes. And he goes down as the best college basketball player this season, but not an all-time great, the way that it felt like we were on track for his coronation, didn't it? This year?
He joins Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, and Zion Williamson as the only men's freshman to win the Wooden Award. That is pretty great company.
Sure.
At the college level.
There is no disputing he is an excellent college basketball player. Excellent. Because he should technically, he's one of these ones that left high school early, right? He's still technically supposed to be like a high school senior at this age, which makes it even more impressive. It ramps up the expectations. There's always expectations when you play at Duke, but why the hell does it say in the grid today, Cooper Flagg, run it back, question mark? What are you drinking? What's in your cup?
That's coffee. I put that in there.
Painkillers in his coffee to deal with his ankle. He took his shoe off in here.
Oh, I bet it smells fantastic.
It smells better than that production room probably does.
My shoe is a little too constricting today for my swollen ankle.
Well, I mean, you don't have to take it from either one of us. Take it from Cooper Flagg, who gave this quote. In February, Flagg said, he wants to come back to Duke. I want to come back next year, the freshman said. I still feel like a kid. This is the only way I've ever known college. That's how I see it. I really wouldn't know how kids felt before, and if it feels different, if this feels more like being a professional, I mean, it's the same thing for kids going to high school, too, getting paid a lot of money. I don't know. I feel pretty normal.
And On3 Sports, Pete Nakos, who we've had on the show from On3, reported shortly after their loss to Houston that following its Final Four exit, Duke is ready to reload with $8 to $10 million available in NIL for the upcoming roster. One source described the NIL war chest as, quote, unlimited for Duke basketball. I put that in there. Run it back, Cooper Flagg, with a little tongue-in-cheek, but...
Run it what?
Run it back.
Okay.
Cooper Flagg.
We'll fix it in post.
Little tongue-in-cheek, but... And we don't see players of that caliber. Like, NIL is enough to have Carson Beck, right, hit the portal and play it out one more year in college football because his draft stock slipped a lot in the past year, and he's making more money than he would on a rookie contract. We've not seen NIL be enough to prevent a player of Cooper Flagg's caliber, a first-round pick, bona fide lottery pick like that, from going to the league.
But it is very scary when you look at the NBA draft lottery. Two of the three teams, and I would keep the Jazz, who are currently have the best odds to have the number one overall pick currently, on the outside looking in. But Washington and Charlotte are two places that you would just not want to go.
I know, Bert, but that's not going to change next year. Like, he's not going to end up on the Cavs or the Thunder or the Celtics just because he goes back. Like,
sure,
there's still going to be terrible teams at the top of the draft.
Not saying you wouldn't, but currently Philadelphia has the fifth best odds to have 5. You'd much rather be in Philadelphia with the 76ers.
You see what's going on in Philly this year?
Sure. I mean, that's injuries. They also traded for Paul George, which was dumb. But all I'm saying is, and I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying I would rather re-roll, take a free year at Duke. You love the coach. You love the area. You love who you played with.
You're making money.
Okay. Well, I'm going to answer your question for you. What does he stand to make next year at Duke? What is? I know you said an unlimited war chest, but what is their current spending?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell you what he would make at Duke. Like, what would a rookie contract look like for Cooper Flagg?
A rookie season, his rookie season salary alone would be $12.6 million. It is financially stupid to go back for another year in college. I don't care how much better the NIL valuation is going to be for him next year, potentially, versus what he made this year. It was $12.6 million last year for a rookie season alone. It is financially irresponsible for him to go back to college. And surely, I mean, you laugh, but seriously, $12.6 million in your first year, not for however long. I mean, he's not going to get $12.6 to go back to Duke, is he?
Oh, I don't know. Again,
knows?
I have no idea.
Or
I
with an
think it's
endorsement,
fair
or
to
who knows?
assume. Okay, the endorsements matter there too, but he's going to make the endorsement money on top of his NBA contract too. Like, it's
Sure.
not like that. He is making less money in college than he would as a pro.
Of course.
I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I'm just saying he's not going to be a 19-year-old kid who is passionate. You can't tell 19-year-old kids what to do.
Also, I feel okay about the Charlotte team. I mean, I know LaMelo gets hurt all the time.
Go
but
play with
They
Brandon
have
Miller.
never won ever. I'm just here to tell you, they have never won ever.
When's the last time a team who has never won ever won anything?
Yeah. And also, it wouldn't surprise me if LaMelo bolted. Like, he is
needs to, right?
in a much smaller
Yeah.
market. Like, even if he has to play number 2 to somebody else, like, you would think that he would just love to get out of there. But that super max is very tempting for players, if you want to talk about money, to stay in these smaller markets.
Okay, so like, somebody on, and this is just speculation, right? We don't have any actual numbers on Cooper Flag, NIL stuff, but Taylor on YouTube says, I bet he could get $10 million at college. That's fine. He could get $12 million next year. I know it's only $2 million more, but it's $2 million.
But again, I mean, there's so many variables. You're gauging the landing spot. Legacy matters to these guys, right? Like wanting to run it back and go get the national championship.
To some.
I'm with you. Like, yeah, but not to you, but to a lot of people it does.
To some. Listen, Lucas, you would be shocked. You work around professional athletes. How many of them really love this thing the way that fans love this thing? Many of them use it as a means to get out of whatever circumstance they were, and that is what they have at their disposal.
I understand that, but I think that
don't give me-
exposure for
don't-
you has also jaded you to any player that feels the opposite of that. And
No,
I think
it
there
does
are players
not.
that
I
feel the opposite
understand
of
that
that.
they exist. I just understand that they are also a much smaller percentage than people actually think are out there,
Yeah,
right?
but you just have no idea what Cooper Flag wants out of this next year. Like,
That's fair.
absolutely no earthly idea. And he's the one putting that out into the universe, okay? He's the one that has been on a mic saying, yeah, I would love to come back next year.
He doesn't know any better. He's a high school senior. I don't care what he thinks about this. Smarter people have to get into his ear and be like, no, you are going to cost yourself a significant amount of money if you do this. Don't do this.
He's probably gone, but it does provoke an interesting question. The first time, when is it going to be? The first time that we see a player at or close to the caliber of Cooper Flag in terms of how he's talked about in the upcoming draft, NBA or NFL, decide to run it back in pursuit of a championship, in pursuit of, again, it's a rarity, but Peyton Manning was the solidified number 1 overall pick in the draft, right? He came back to Tennessee because he wanted to win an SEC championship. He's a very unique situation. Arch Manning probably also would be very unique. But when is it going to become slightly more commonplace when guys are able to supplement with NIL, when they have an NIL offer to come back and they're staring down the barrel of playing for the Jags or the Browns or whoever is particularly horrible sitting there with the number 1 overall pick?
Yeah,
and
football's
thinking,
a bad example, though.
Yeah, maybe. But I'm just saying, I don't think that we're too far from that, from players that can be first-round picks deciding to run it back to go get a championship and get paid.
Not the best player in the sport, not the number 1 overall pick in the draft.
Is he the bona fide number 1 overall pick? Do we know that? Okay. Are you scouting over there in France and Spain?
No.
You know of all the international players that we're talking
there are
about?
plenty of good international players, and two of them went in the first round last year from France, if I'm not mistaken. I know the number 1 overall pick was from France.
Exactly. So I'm just saying, you say that very confidently. Yes, he's the best player in college basketball. I don't know that he's the number 1 overall pick. I don't know what's going on over there in Europe right now with those kids.
He is more likely to be the number 1 overall pick than he's not.
Maybe. I don't know. Again, I'm not going to pretend to know.
Volleys that back as an argument. Maybe. Okay.
That's what you did to me with Kirk Cousins not 30
That's right.
minutes
I won.
ago.
And I won.
You did not.
I won.
Had anybody ever heard of Zachary Riesaker? Who was it that was selected with the number 1 pick last year?
He said that correctly.
No, of course I didn't,
saw
because I never heard his name before.
Because he ended up having a career high. I don't know how it's gone for him in the NBA. I lose track of these guys once they get to the NBA.
Like, he probably is, but don't act like it's out of the realm of possibility that there's this.
Would you look at the clock
prodigy popping
one
up in
time
Spain
before you get caught up in your own air?
Oh, we got time.
Go to break.
It is 12:02. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans were in attendance for Colorado's Pro Day on Friday as both Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter worked out. Titans met with Sanders briefly after the workout, canceled his private workout with the team that was scheduled for later on this week. The men's national championship is tonight in San Antonio, Florida versus Houston. You can hear the game right here on The Zone, courtesy of Westwood One. Meanwhile, Tennessee's offseason has begun in the transfer portal. The Vols making it official, the acquisition of former Belmont and Maryland guard Jacoby Gillespie, as well as former Vanderbilt forward Jalen Carey via the portal. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour on this Monday. That argument continued well into the commercial break because I don't know how many times Lucas has to be told by collegiate athletics that business wins more than anything else in the world as it completely reshapes college football. But Cooper Flagg, he's going to be the difference, baby. 615-737-104. You also said he wasn't going to be the number one overall pick. 615-7. Shut up. 615-737-1045 is the number. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch live stream the show. Bert, Lucas, and me for one more hour. So they canceled the workout with Shedeur Sanders. They had a handful of people go to the pro day. The private workout was supposed to be on Wednesday. Now it's not happening. What does it mean? It means you're taking Cam Ward. It means you're taking Cam Ward, or whatever percentage chance remains, for a trade to be viable, though as each day passes, a trade option, whichever trade option might already exist or any trade options that they might offer, whether it be Cleveland, New York, or somebody else, it becomes less and less likely by the day that the Titans trade out of number one overall, and they are comfortable with Cam Ward as the number one overall pick. Now, again, they have not given any definitive assurances to Cam Ward about being the number one overall pick. They're leaving it in the lurch a little bit for whatever reason. That's fine. But the idea of a team just kind of throwing their hands up in the air and be like, all right, enough with the charade. Let's just cancel this pro day. Let's head in the direction that we plan to head in and make sure we're as buttoned up as humanly possible at every other place that we need to continue to add options or add talent through the draft and even so in free agency. Let's just keep it moving here. And that's what the Titans have essentially done. And I have zero issue with that, nor should fans.
The trade between Titans and Rams about 10 years ago happened 2 weeks before the draft.
Yep.
We will be at 2 weeks before the draft this coming Thursday.
Oh, spicy. And Callahan said what? That was Monday? That he said about 2 weeks-ish before they definitively know what direction they're heading in. So he's kind of operating in that same window.
But it feels like the only scenario here where it's not Cam Ward is the Godfather offer. That feels less and less likely with every passing day. Yeah. As now Adam Schefter continues to, create smoke around the Browns love Travis Hunter with the number 2 overall pick. And then the Giants will be there at 3. That feels less and less likely every single day that the Titans would get the Godfather offer that I believe they probably wanted, right? All of their messaging at the start of this process.
There are still people in the building who do.
Yeah, that was to trade back 30 picks in 3 years. What was it? 10 top 100, 12 top 100 picks in 3 years.
12 in the top 100 over the course of 3 years. Which, again, I remind you, J-Rob had from 21 to 20, he had it from 20 to 22 was his last draft. And botched everyone but McCreary. So it speaks to the kind of volume approach, as many bites of the apple as humanly possible, just to hedge your bets against the inexact science that is the draft process. But that's not the direction that they seem to be heading in right now. You always leave yourself open for the potential of something like that. But as you continue to prepare for Cam Ward and all the things that you've done in service for Cam Ward, retooling the offensive line situation in free agency, adding backup quarterback caliber talent that are there more to threaten your former second-round pick in Will Levis. Maybe threaten the wrong word, but challenge your former second-round pick in Will Levis rather than threaten you as a job or as a job competitor if you're Cam Ward. Cam Ward is going to be expected, if they draft him number 1 overall, and this also becomes a part of the question, are you comfortable with them starting him right away? And I think most people would say yes.
Well, he has to start right away.
There's no question.
Yeah. I mean, and normally I would not be of that stance. That I love breaking in the young quarterback. I give him time. But when Brandon Allen and Will Levis and Tim Boyle are your other quarterbacks on the roster,
yeah, you got to start.
He has to start on day one. They're let's please not do this. And I don't think they will. But he's going to start on day one.
You don't think they'll go full Urban Meyer and have them splitting reps with Levis?
Yeah, full quarterback competition. No, that would be entirely a waste of time.
But you know what? I'll tell you, Lucas, because I gave them a bunch of hell about this last year. They didn't have a competition last year, and they ended up with not a great option. And there's no tell. What I know about the Titans' experience with Will Levis last year is they felt completely comfortable with him in the meeting rooms. And they felt all right about him at practice. It's not like he was an outright disaster in practices in a way that was clear and obvious for everybody to see that he could not handle these moments. And then when you got him in game situations and everything went to hell, you just looked around and be like, what do we do here? There's no possible scenario that can prepare you for the Will Levis mental meltdown that he had in those moments.
That wasn't because they didn't have a competition.
The entire sample size awry. No, but they came into it without really. I mean, they kept trying to present the guise of a competition. Nobody believed them.
There wasn't even the guise of a competition for QB1, right? I mean, it was really for QB2.
They said some stuff at the start of the year.
Yeah, they say what every coach says. But tell me right now, every team in the NFL that will have an actual competition for their starting quarterback position next year. Maybe 1 or 2.
Not many.
Maybe 2.
Well, we'll see what happens with Pittsburgh.
The Colts are the only
actively in a competition
that I can think of right now. The only one. Every NFL team hands the keys over to somebody. It either works or it doesn't.
And especially with the number 1 overall pick, because you have to do everything in service of the number 1 overall pick when you take that player. We have talked about this a million times over. So you get him as ready as humanly possible. He's not going to be fully ready by the time he takes a snap in week 1. But it doesn't benefit him to sit the bench behind this collection of quarterbacks. There is nothing viable about this collection of quarterbacks giving the Titans a better chance to succeed than Cam Ward might. And he'll pick up some bumps and bruises along the way, and maybe, it certainly won't be seamless because he's got a lot of things to clean up as a college prospect, but they all do. None of them are finished products by the time they arrive here, and we see this evidence year after year after year with so many number 1 overall picks taken at quarterback specifically, where less than half of them end up paying. We would consider a first round pick at quarterback to be a success if they won a playoff game, right?
Sure.
Less than half of them win a playoff game as first round picks at the position.
That oversimplifies it, right? Because Marcus Mariota won a playoff game. Was he a success in Tennessee?
No. Marcus, but like Tannehill. Tannehill's a success as a first-round quarterback. And Tannehill obviously had a larger sample size of success, both with Miami, the team that drafted him, and in Tennessee, than Marcus Mariota did. I think a lot of people would scoff at the idea of, we talked about, if Will Levis could just have the career of Ryan Tannehill or be a souped-up Ryan Tannehill, that would be a great success. Tannehill has had a very successful NFL career relative to what the hit rate is. Really, relative to any standard, because the hit rate is less than 50% on these first-round quarterbacks, not even just the sample size of first overall. And we've talked about the percentages of that before. But I'm so curious to see what they end up doing with the rest of their draft as a result. We'll have plenty of time to talk about it. Obviously, Cosell's looking forward to getting into it. Greg and I did our quarterback preview on the install prior to the live show taking place this past Thursday, so you can check that out wherever you get your podcast. And Bert informs me that the ticket link is pinned in the YouTube chat if you have not yet purchased your tickets to the Install Live with Greg Cosell, where we will be talking about Cam Ward, the Titans free agents, and whomever else they end up adding through the draft. There's no other meaning to take from the Titans canceling. You can try, and if you're still team trade back for whatever reason you might be, and that's fine. Like I said, there are still people in the building who would prefer a trade option if an option was viable. They don't have an option that's viable. I know, I understand, but that does, again, for the same reason that you're talking about Cooper Flagg may want to go back to Duke or whatever. Like, what's viable, what makes the most sense versus what your emotional attachments are. And I completely sympathize with both of those things. 615-737-1045 is the number. Yeah, you're emotionally attached to the idea of trying to trade out of that spot.
But you're saying if you are emotionally attached to that idea, that's okay.
Yeah,
that's what that is. Yeah.
But the sensible.
But there's no viable option if you do that.
To your point,
throw the football.
Playing quarterback. Yeah. Yes, correct. 615-737-1045 is the number before we pivot back into some college basketball ahead of the national championship tonight. How about Tim in Goodlettsville?
Hello.
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 Hello. All right, I don't care anymore.
What in the world?
I'm not looking at you like it's your fault, but you just happen to be closest to the call screens. So.
What happened?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello. I thought I was being nice by giving him the benefit of the second hello.
Sorry, Tim.
I'm not. Do better, Tim. 615-737-1045 is the number. Todd Golden versus Kelvin Sampson. Houston versus Florida. We'll talk about it next. Two Rivers Ford has huge news. You know that they're the South's most trusted Ford dealer for a reason, and they've been operating in Middle Tennessee with honesty and integrity for over 40 years. But the huge announcement is that they are now offering employee pricing for everyone. That means you pay what they pay on almost every new Ford on the lot. And at Two Rivers Ford, what you see is always what you get. They don't do things like add expensive accessories or tack on service packages to increase the price of vehicles. Two Rivers is upfront and honest every single time. And now they are offering you that employee pricing, so there's no better time to buy American and no better dealership than Two Rivers Ford. Locally owned and operated for over 40 years, like I mentioned, and home of the non-commissioned sales team, and now home of employee pricing for everyone. From America, for America, Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Nothing says love and happiness like Hattie B's. Lunch hour officially upon us. Lucas, they have anything going on specifically right now, or just the delightful hot chicken, the sides, the full bar if you go to any one of their Middle Tennessee locations? Breakfast at the factory in Franklin, breakfast at the Nashville International Airport. What else they got going on at Hattie B's?
Check out their jumbo wings, 24 wings, $35 for the national championship game tonight, HattieB.com. And when I say jumbo, they are jumbo. So feed your flock when you watch Houston and Florida in San Antonio this evening.
What time's the national championship game?
8 o'clock?
8 Central?
I believe so.
Okay.
Do you think Hattie B's has you know how drugstores and Walmart and all that, after Easter, they'll put Easter candy on sale or Halloween candy on sale. Do you think they would put those jumbo wings on sale tomorrow morning and I could just go pick up whatever they don't sell?
They're already on sale. You want them more on sale than they already are?
Well, no, just the ones that were on sale for that night. You know?
Until I see, what are you like somebody that goes to the donut shop and picks up the day old donuts for a nickel?
I am that person. Well, no, I'm the person that gets them out of the dumpster.
I mean, we love a local establishment in Germantown that does Italian sandwiches and food and stuff. No free
So
shout-outs. But they sell day-old bread.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Little Hats. Love that place.
Yeah, can we not? We all, Little Hats slaps. Their chicken parm sandwich is excellent. Lucas bitches that their pasta costs too much and still loves it anyway, so,
It's good. I can make it at home. But the bread, though, I can't make it home. And they sell day-old Italian bread for $1, and it's fantastic. So maybe, go swing by the dumpster behind the Midtown Hattie B's.
Do not send the audience to dumpster dive behind Hattie B's or Little Hats or any
just sending Robert.
We're gonna
as much as their cost for pasta, you'd think they have a bigger hat than that.
They're all little. 24 wings, $35 at HattieB.com.
I was just going to let him sit there and rub your nose in it like a dog that's had an accident. Do people still do that with dogs, or is that outdated?
You're not supposed to.
Okay, that's an outdated thing.
Free dessert when you download the app.
All right, very good. All the plugs. Now, Todd Golden, 39 years old, head coach of the Florida Gators, never won a tournament game until this year, and now he's won 5 in a row. Kelvin Sampson has done it at so many different programs, at so many different levels of college basketball, and finds himself again in a situation where he has the ability to stake his claim as one of the best. He is already one of the best college basketball coaches going. But winning a national championship sets you apart. It defines your legacy for a lifetime. Fitzy was trying to tell me yesterday on the Fox Sports National show that championships don't matter when it comes to defining greatness. And I just wanted to reach through the iPad and grab him by his little scrawny neck and strangle him and say, what the hell are you talking about?
Just generally or basketball coaches?
He was using Cooper Flagg as the example. We were debating this. That Cooper Flagg's greatness is not diminished by the fact that he does not have a national championship. But his greatness would be exponentially elevated if he did have a national championship. And, you get into the tired sports talk radio arguments of Bert, your boy, Trent Dilfer. Well, he has a Super Bowl ring. That doesn't make him a great quarterback or whatever. But he's a part of a great team in a team sport, and that does matter for legacy type of conversations. It does matter to Cooper Flagg, so much so that he would even outwardly consider the thought of going back to Duke, even though it would be financially irresponsible as hell.
He'll be fine.
Fair to expect. But for Todd Golden versus Kelvin Sampson, it feels like Kelvin Sampson needs it more just because he's 30 years older than Todd Golden. And it feels like Todd Golden, now that he's overcome, the early situation at Florida that was alleged about him and the way that the team was able to essentially, however they rallied, despite not winning their conference, they were still excellent the entire way through. Auburn showed some slight, I don't know what the word that I'm looking for, mortality down the stretch in that game, and Florida was so quick to jump on their neck and snatch that away from them and prove, again, why so many people picked Florida to win the national championship this year. They have better top-end talent, but Houston arguably is the more cohesive team. And I don't know who that favors. I do know for Kelvin Sampson, this matters a great deal more from the legacy perspective of the conversation because he has the opportunity to entrench himself in college basketball history for all time if he gets this done tonight.
Talk about full circle for Kelvin Sampson.
It's awesome, even though it's at the expense of my basketball program.
Even down to where the games are being played. So obviously, Houston beat Tennessee in Indianapolis, a stone's throw away from Bloomington, Indiana, where he went to college, where Kelvin Sampson obviously was the head coach at IU before being unceremoniously forced out and essentially banished with a show cause for a few years from the college game.
And there's no telling what he would have been able to do with that Eric Gordon team.
Sure. Do you remember where he went? Not the first job, because he was an assistant. He was a Bucks assistant, a Rockets assistant in a couple years.
He had a couple of different stints in the NBA. But wasn't he coaching a Division II school?
No, he was forced out in like early February of that last season in 2008 out of Indiana. He went straight to San Antonio to work in an advisory role for Greg Popovich in the San Antonio Spurs. So here he is winning the regional final against Tennessee in Indianapolis, right next door to the place that basically had him booted from college basketball for a few years, and he goes straight down to San Antonio, which is where he went right after that happened. But now he's going down there to try to win a national championship.
He's essentially going to get a home game. Like, I know there are still some Auburn fans and some Duke fans that probably have tickets to tonight's national championship game. Will stick around, but they'll sell those tickets.
Jim Nantz will be there.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll be on to tell 3HL all about it. He was on with them last week. So very full circle for Kelvin Sampson. It feels like the stars are aligning for him to win the national championship, which makes me think Florida's going to win the national championship.
I mean, that's my pick. If you made me pick the game today, I'd still pick Florida. That they would show some level of flaw throughout this entire tournament and still be able to overcome it.
Yeah.
That to me is the clear, like, don't overthink it. I want Houston to win because Houston is the better story. Florida, in a single game elimination sample size, Florida wins 7 times out of 10.
Yeah, but what is that flaw that you're talking about?
Oh, the turnovers.
The turnovers, right? And they're going up against the best defensive team in the country, bar none.
And they just showed against Duke why you have to fear them up until the buzzer has sounded and the game is over. 40 minutes. They will play you for that entire 40 minutes, and they've proved that the entire way through the tournament. But that Duke game is as good a sample size as you could find of why Houston and Kelvin Sampson are in the position that they're in.
But it's just cool that we have this matchup, right? 69-year-old Kelvin Sampson, who's just trying to get that championship after a legendary Hall of Fame caliber career as a college basketball coach, against 39-year-old Todd Golden, who, as you said, never won a tournament game until he got to Florida.
And looks 12.
The dichotomy of those two, Sampson, a coach who has aged gracefully with every evolution of the sport, and Golden, a coach who has taken advantage of everything at his disposal as one of the new wave coaches in the sport. And something's got to give. One of them's got to win. I would say the entire college basketball world, it feels like, is rooting for Kelvin Sampson and Houston in this one, if you're not a Florida Gator fan. And maybe there's the SEC folks out there that desperately want the SEC to have the championship after the year that it was.
You're working against a couple things here, right? Because there's still those dopes out there on the internet that'll be like, oh, the SEC so overrated. Okay, they had 2 teams in the Final Four. They have 1 team in the national championship.
Yeah, like half the teams in the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16.
14 teams in the field, you idiots. Like, why? How are you so comfortable offering such a stupid opinion in public spaces? I'll never understand. But you're working against a couple of things. Houston is the better storyline. Houston will have more just general, all right, objective fans. Who are you rooting for? More of them are going to root for Houston because I think people are also, tired of the SEC beating its chest in every collegiate sport, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, softball, whatever it is. The SEC tends to dominate these things, and now that's trickled in the last, I'd argue, 10 to 15 years, really, where it's been overwhelming how much more effort and how many more resources the SEC as a conference is pouring into their basketball programs at football schools. Yeah, Florida's less likable, but they're better.
We'll see. I don't know that. They are hotter, without a doubt. Houston is better at other things than Florida is. I also wonder if Houston wins tonight, or maybe the outcome doesn't matter tonight. Is there any noise about Kelvin Sampson maybe riding off into the sunset? I mean, his
It
son
doesn't. I mean, I've only read stuff from afar, like from people who cover college basketball on a daily basis, and it doesn't seem like he's.
Yeah.
Seems like he's good to come back. It's kind of like a Rick Barnes situation.
He'll be 70 at the start of next season. His son, Kellen, seems to be the coach in waiting on his staff down there.
It sounds like the vibe around Kelvin Sampson is stop trying to retire me.
Sure. Fair enough. But that'd be pretty cool to win a national championship right before you hit 70 and then hand it off to your son on the way out.
So that is part of his contract, though, where if he does retire, his son becomes the next head coach and gets a $2 million increase into his salary.
Got a good situation there. So from college basketball, the national championship, obviously tonight, let's take a pivot and talk about the NFL draft. We'll do so here in just a second, right after I remind you that you can check out every show, whether it's our show or any of the other 3 live shows that we do here on The Zone on a regular basis in your favorite podcast app. You can also follow 104.5 The Zone on YouTube. Subscribe there. You can get all 4 live shows there. You can get original programming as well. There's so many different things that you have at your disposal. All you need to do. What are we at, Bert? What should be like, because if we hit a certain milestone on the Zone YouTube subscription, like I want to do something for the audience if they help us get to a certain spot. Where are we at with the subscriptions on the Zone's YouTube channel?
So my secret goal has always been 15K by the draft, and we are at 14.1. We need 900 more subscribers to hit that goal in the next 3-ish weeks.
So
if that happens,
Buck will shave his head.
No, the radio station hates when I do this because I'm not, I haven't cleared this with anybody prior to this. But
Robert will wrestle a lion at the Nashville Zoo. Join us. We'll all line up around and just see what happens.
Throw him in there like the scene
Like
of Game of
Anchorman.
Thrones. Oh, like Anchorman, but that's a panda.
No,
it's a grizzly bear.
There's a bear.
It's a grizzly
Yeah,
I'd fight a bear cub. I'd be down with that.
Oh, that'd be fun. I would love to watch that.
What is the determination of fighting a bear cub, though? Like, do I have to knock him out? Or, like, do I just have to wait till he mauls me enough to satisfy the bloodlust of
He
the
would just
people
think
watching?
you're playing, too. He would,
Yeah.
it would honestly be adorable to watch.
What did we even get on
I don't
this?
know. What I am saying is if we reach 15,000 YouTube subscriptions do you have a way to determine who the 15,000th subscription is?
Yeah, absolutely.
If that person is also in attendance at the install, then perhaps
They will get Buck's car.
We can say
Very nice of you.
Can we
Very nice of you.
back it off for a second? It's like when he ruins the joke. When he goes in, when you ask him to guess a number on a certain thing and he just lowballs the holy hell out of you. So it goes off like a fart in the wind. Unbelievable. What if we gave away something like some Titans merch or something like that? I'll have to figure out what's within the realm of my grasp for the live show or something like that. But this not a station sanctioned thing. Like I'll just do it for the audience. If the 15,000th subscription on YouTube, Bert will be able to document that. We'll figure out a way to reach out, and then we will reward that person with something. But you have to subscribe to 104.5 The Zone on YouTube, and perhaps I'll go to the where do you go to get jerseys? You go to Dick's? Is the pro shop open when it's not football season?
I think you can go to the team store. Well, actually, I don't know because of all the construction.
Yeah, the construction there is a disaster.
I don't know.
All right, I'll figure this out.
Gosh, somebody should really sponsor us to tell people where to buy their Titans gear at.
Maybe get them a candle or something.
Seriously, you can get sports jerseys at Dick's, right?
Yeah, of course you can.
Okay. We'll see.
Fanatics, very easy to find jerseys nowadays.
Well, the Fanatic stuff is crap, though, isn't it?
We would give them a Will Levis jersey. I feel like those are the easiest to acquire.
There's probably still an A.J. Brown floating around out there. 615-737-1045. JB says, could we just have a day of positive Buck? No. I can't go a full day.
Jim on the F&M Bank chat says, I'll unsubscribe at 14,999 and then subscribe to win.
Why would you read that comment out loud? Because now they're all going to do
it's a
that.
good
I can
strategy.
see their history. It would have to be a brand new subscriber.
We're on to you.
Gotcha, Jim.
Iro says, or Buck has to become a Titans fan. No, we're not doing that.
He already is.
For a day.
He's
What
as
about for a
emotional as
day?
any of you.
Well, I did that. I did that on Halloween. Remember, I put that Oilers jersey on that Nate Bain gave us for the show, and then I put the Trader Joe's bag over my head, and I wrote collaboration, and then that person got fired. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. So there's NFL draft scuttlebutt. What do you have in the nature of scuttlebutt, given that the only person that could have put that in the grid is the person who continues to overuse that word?
Oh, some kerfuffle, if you will, some hoo-ha. Hurly-burly around the Titans and the number one pick.
I'm so mad.
This was Ian Rappaport reacting to the Titans canceling the private workout of Shedeur Sanders. Sorry, that was quick.
Did you tell him that that's the audio that you wanted?
No, but we do have it in there, don't we?
So that's your fault.
No, we don't have it in there.
All right, who's doing their Ian Rappaport impression?
See, the Titans have... That was terrible.
That was Bill Cosby, is what that was.
Don't say anything offensive. I met him in owners' meetings. He's a very nice man.
That's fine.
I'll take it.
There's no reason to.
At your convenience.
Do you think he could pick you out of a lineup?
Oh, he's looking at us like he has no idea what you're talking
Just
about.
hold on, dadgummit. Golly.
So what's the name? So it's just about the Titans, this audio that we're getting ready to hear? God, this is so us. I'm asking you, Dopey.
Yeah. Reaction to the Titans canceling the private workout of Shedeur Sanders.
All right, look, here's what I'm going to play. This was Ian Rappaport earlier today on Pat McAfee's show talking about Shedeur in those situations and how the Titans canceling their visit plays out.
Perfect.
It's the big news around the NFL. Shedeur and the Titans canceling their workout. That feels like that's the big news. A couple retirements. What is the big NFL news of the day here, Rap Sheet?
It kind of feels like the Shedeur thing, right? So obviously on Friday, Colorado had its showcase, not a pro day, but a showcase, which
it was awesome. I think
it was pretty awesome. I would agree with that.
Dion yelling at scouts. Dion yelling at scouts, telling them, "Hey, you don't tell my guys how to run 40s. Okay, you just got here. Get the hell out of the way." I think Shedeur did a great job. I think Travis ran some great routes with no gloves on his hands. I feel like it was a win for everybody at this showcase. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, well, there's a lot on Travis Hunter, and I want to get to that in a second, because him deciding to run routes but not doing DB drills is interesting, but hold that for 1 second. The Shedeur Sanders look good, and if you're someone who wants to draft him at 2 or 3 or early, you saw enough where you're like, all right, like, obviously the talent is there. The arm strength is, I don't know who said he couldn't throw deep. They were all angry about somebody saying that. I've not yet found the culprit of such accusations, but he has proved that that is not the case. And then, you sort of get word that the Titans mutually canceled a visit with Shedeur, which I would say to me makes sense, because it looks like the Titans are going in one direction. They haven't officially confirmed or announced, but it looks like they're going in one direction, which would be to select Cam Ward at number 1. And then if that's the case, then I'm not sure what the point of a Shedeur workout anyway is, especially when it worked out for the whole world like 3 days before. So that makes sense. But in the context of like giving us an idea for what the Titans want to do, I think that's why it kind of stood out to everyone as maybe the biggest news of this weekend.
Okay. So everything that we knew. Last call for phone calls. If you got them, 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help you like they've helped so many other guys over the course of the last decade plus, because if you're dealing with ED and you've gone through already some kind of treatment option that may have stopped working. If you're taking pills, for example, those effects may fade. Speak to the experts at the Tennessee Men's Clinic before you get any other kind of misconceptions about ED treatment. The Tennessee Men's Clinic specializes in men's sexual health issues. It's all that they do, and it makes them the experts in the field. They have access to multiple protocols and options to treat ED based on your specific needs and what's going on in your body. So don't trust your health to an online pharmacy and don't feel like you're out of options. Call the Tennessee Men's Clinic today. Their protocols are patient-centered and customized to your needs. They have treatments for everything from low testosterone, ED, treatments that increase size, stamina, and everything else in between. So schedule an appointment online today at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com for their Franklin or Midtown location, or call them 615-208-9090. Welcome back to the show. Last call for phone calls if you got them. 615-737-1045. We'll get to those as soon as we can. F&M Bank Chat, last minutes for comments as well. So it sounds like we as a show are picking Florida, even though Houston feels like it as good a matchup as you could hope for. Again, this is a great national championship game tonight. It's an excellent matchup. No combination of the final two teams would have been dissatisfying to me. I know there's a double negative, but I am so looking forward to this national championship game. The women's game last night it's not disappointing. It's just UConn dominant.
Yeah,
start to finish.
What a blowout.
Against a great opponent in South Carolina.
Dawn Staley looked like she was going to lose her mind in that game.
Yeah.
I am not going with Florida. Houston is my pick. Has been from the beginning.
Okay.
I think Kelvin Sampson is the most overdue coach in college basketball.
It will be curious to see how that goes. That would be the more Cinderella finish, even though they're two number one seeds squaring off and they're two high-level college basketball coaches and two stacked rosters and two of the most impressive teams from a metric standpoint. Again, the Final Four was just crazy with how good all four of those final teams were.
Isn't it just crazy that Houston was like in the American 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Just like dusting schools like Rice and ECU and like just these small programs. Like,
yeah, but you know what? They really did the Big 12 the same way they did the AAC this year. Like they really didn't miss a beat when the competition got better.
They haven't lost a game since like late January.
Yeah, it's crazy. Tommy wants to chime in on tonight's game. Hey, Tommy.
Hello, Bud. Not a lot of the old school Tennessee fans will be going for Houston tonight because of the Spurrier days where he said you can't spell Citrus Bowl without a T. So I don't think Tennessee will be voting for Florida tonight. Maybe any of the other SEC teams, but not Florida. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for the call, Tommy.
You want me to translate, or did you get that?
What the hell?
I got it.
I mean, I got it too. But
No, I just assumed Buck wouldn't understand Southern.
Listen.
Those are my people. I understood every word he said.
I even didn't yell at him for having his radio up in the background. I did really well on that.
That's my fault. I told him to roll his windows up. I didn't tell him to turn the radio down.
Love him going all the way back to Spurrier quotes from the 90s.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that's what it is. SEC hatred is real. SEC hatred is tribal.
Yeah.
Florida's probably not the lovable underdog. There's no lovable underdog in this game in particular, but it's certainly not Florida.
That's the thing. Like, SEC fans have been standing on the table about the SEC being the best conference, and it has been all year, but I'd wager the majority of non-Florida SEC fans are wanting Houston to win tonight.
Bert, who'd you pick in your bracket?
That's tough.
You didn't make a bracket.
I did not make a bracket.
He's been filling it out as it goes.
I've been filling it out, and I just put the date on it as like 4. When did this start? Like 3/19? I think that's what the date I put on it. So it looks like I had one. So right now in my final, I have Florida and Houston, and I will let you know who the champion is tomorrow. Warren Buffett, here I come.
Is he still doing that?
I don't know.
That is the sports record that will never be broken.
A perfect bracket.
No one will ever have a perfect bracket.
It's not there to be broken, yes. No, it'll never happen, ever.
Well, I think a lot of people are still going to pick Florida tonight. Like on the pregame shows, it's definitely a tough choice.
They've been the most popular pick since the start of the tournament.
Who's favored? I haven't even looked at the gambling lines on this tonight. I imagine that Houston might be favored.
Florida 1.5.
Okay. So close enough. I just figured because it's in San Antonio, that's basically a home game. I mean, I'm sure Florida fans will travel.
What's the total?
For a national championship game. I would bet under whatever the total is.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Unless it's anemic.
The total is 140.5.
Ooh, I'm probably taking that under.
Yeah. I would think 140.5. I'd probably bet that under too.
3-hour drive from Houston to San Antonio.
It's not bad.
Texas is a big state.
All right. Yes, thank you. We end with the geography prowess of the expert analysis of Texas is big.
I didn't win my geography bee.
Just the spelling.
But I won the spelling.
Give me some polls so I can go home.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. What is the most unbreakable record in sports? George says Wayne Gretzky's career points record. He's nearly 1,000 points ahead of second place. It is telling that Alexander Ovechkin now has more career regular season goals than Wayne Gretzky, and he won't even sniff the points record. So I would say that is pretty unbreakable. Jason says, undoubtedly Cal Ripken Jr.'s consecutive games played record of 2,632 in this load management era.
So crazy.
Yeah, in this era of just sports as a whole, that is also an unbreakable record.
I mean, just how many games daily is that? For how many years? Like, that's crazy.
It's insane.
It's probably that one. I still think that all of Brady's records are going to be tough to beat, whether it's total passing yards, total touchdowns, Super Bowl championships, oldest quarterback to win a Super Bowl, all those different things. I think Brady's going to be a tough one to top, but that's probably the most unbreakable.
I don't know. Give Pat Mahomes another 10 years, see how close he is. Lucas Perry says another underrated one is Brett Favre's interception record. No one in the active NFL is even close, and no QB is going to get the chance to throw that many unless some of the elite guys just become turnover machines.
Well, they don't let quarterbacks throw turnovers at that rate anymore. Otherwise, they go the way of Will Levis.
How many interceptions is it? 336 interceptions.
That's outrageous.
Is a lot of interceptions.
That's outrageous.
Ryan submitted Peyton Manning's rookie interceptions record, but I feel like that could be broken.
No, I really think that coaches are so
the leash is shorter.
Uptight about turnovers specifically that I don't think you see a rookie quarterback get that chance.
And extra game helps.
Yeah. Extra game does help. And then B-Law just says Isaiah Wilson. No record.
Yeah.
He just says Isaiah Wilson.
Sure. I mean, what is the least amount of time spent as a first-round draft pick of actual time in the NFL, actual snaps played in the NFL? Because I think he has 4 career snaps.
Fair or foul? The Titans canceling Shedeur Sanders' workout means they will not be drafting him. 87% say fair.
Fair, yeah. Wait, only 87%? What are the holdouts thinking, Trade?
It's the smokescreen of all smokescreens, baby.
Come on.
All right, Shedeur, here's the plan. All right, we've seen you. We like you. We're going to take you. What we're going to tell everybody is we're not going to take you. Wouldn't that be something?
The things that I would say about that organization if that's the route that they ended up going.
What would be the worst landing spot for Travis Hunter? Patriots, Browns, or Giants? 61.5% voted Browns. 22% said Giants. 16.5% said Patriots.
It's just the stigma that comes with Cleveland, right? Like Cleveland is where losers go, or where losing football happens for the most amount of time historically.
But they haven't been shy to pay people. I wouldn't mind going to Cleveland if you're Travis. And they've been to the playoffs. I would not want to go to the Giants.
That's what I'm saying. I think the Giants are the worst possible scenario.
Lame duck general manager, lame duck head coach. You don't even know who you're going to be playing for next year. That would be tough for me if I was Travis Hunter.
The only thing that would be fun about New York is the pregame hype speeches.
That's true.
Who leads the way, Jameis or Russ?
Jameis.
Got to be Jameis.
Yeah, if he's on the sideline, I need him leading the troops. Like, Russell, you just worry about throwing the ball. Looking pretty. Sierra, how about that?
Obviously, Cleveland doesn't have a quarterback to throw it to Travis Hunter at the moment, but they will, right? They're not going to pay Myles Garrett, draft Travis Hunter as this ultimate weapon, and then go into the season with Kenny Pickett as their starting quarterback.
No, but he would be a legend there, even if they didn't. Like, that place loves Josh Cribbs. You know what I mean? Like, as a returner. They're like, oh, Josh Cribbs, hell yeah. Like, he would be a god in Cleveland.
The amount of people that still cape up for Josh Cribbs as a Hall of Fame candidate because of the returning stuff.
Cordero Patterson has his milk. I hate it for him.
Yeah. So you're saying that Travis Hunter would be
Correct.
a god in
Correct.
Oh,
Cleveland.
yeah, they
Correct.
would claim it. Nobody else has a player like this. He's only ours, even if he's on a 3-win football team.
And they have a good fan base. Like the Giants
They really
are just
do.
a bunch of mean New York people.
No, but the Giants are a good fan base, too. The Browns, I have so much respect for the Browns fan base because the Giants have won Super Bowls in the last couple of decades. Like, they're not that far removed from it. Browns fans, they have nothing.
Yeah.
They have no reason to be as energized about their football team year after year after year after year the way that they are. It's just it's an Ohio thing. They are built different for the sport of football. Coaches come out of there, players come out of there. It's all that they have.
Yeah, even the Jets fan base has better memories in the last 20 years than Browns fans. Jets have been built up and torn down pretty dramatically in the last couple of years, though.
If you go to Cleveland, then Bruce Drennan's going to be on your ass.
Oh, I love that he's doubling down on the Cowboys, Dak Prescott,
It's
Browns
what
thing.
I heard.
Joe Milton, I heard he can throw it a country mile.
He sure can.
Who you got tonight, Houston or Florida? 61% are going with Florida in the national championship game. 7:50 p.m. is the tip-off tonight. Florida 1.5-point favorites. You can hear the game right here on 104.5 The Zone, of course, courtesy of Westwood One.
Those the polls?
Those are the polls. I'm sad the tournament's ending.
Yeah, I know. March Madness is the best. It's the best by a mile. But it's been a great college basketball season. It'll be a worthy champion crown tonight, prime time, to preview, not the national championship game. We'll have some Titans discussion for you then at 7 p.m. See you there.
We've got the trucks, all the trims, all the towing, all the bells and whistles, and all at Truck Month Savings. Two Rivers Ford is Ford Truck Central.
Do you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.